The picture in my mind shows that the 6 monks are still sitting quietly in the distance, looking very patient. The closer to the cliff, the more careful Tian was. He watched the movements of those people from time to time, and did not dare to be careless. In the picture, the 6 human friars are still sitting there quietly, as if there were no such friars at all. When he was 14 or 5 feet away from his opponent, Tian quietly took out a magic weapon cave. A magic power hit on it. The magic weapon cave boomed and magnified rapidly. Then a series of figures flew out of it and killed the 6 hidden monks. No, enemy attack. Tian didn't dare to get too close, so the risk factor would be very high. Once he had any accident, everyone would be finished. Therefore, he would rather take a little more trouble than too much risk. After all, he is responsible for everyone. The sound of the magic weapon landing immediately attracted the attention of those people. One of them, a monk with a goatee, yelled and got up to fly away. When Tian heard this man's voice, he immediately recognized that it was the elder of Xianming sect. The man's face was full of horror. As soon as he bounced up, he wanted to stay away from the hidden stone. Suddenly, there was a flash of cold light in the sky. Many terrible sword lights crossed and blocked all the way back. It was very likely that he would be killed with one blow. Seeing this, the elder's face was more frightened. At this time of life and death crisis, a black smoke suddenly came out of his body, but his body slowly fell down as if out of control, and a red shadow quickly floated out of his body and ran away towards the sword light. Where to go? As two peas broke out, the red shadow was just like the blood ghost. Where would it be easy to escape? With a gesture, the huge Xianyang stone appeared out of thin air and landed heavily on the island. The island was shaken. Almost at the same time, Yun Zhong holds a 1,000-year-old peach tree thunder sword, and a terrible thunder bursts out to the red shadow. As soon as Xianyang stone appeared, the gravity field immediately took effect. Under the effect of Xianyang stone gravity field, the speed of the red shadow was greatly affected, but the speed of the thunder did not slow down at all. Boom boom. After several thunders, the red shadow exploded, turned into a little red light and disappeared. Xuanxie and Yunzhong joined hands to kill the red shadow, and the rest of the friars had already got it. More than 50 monks who transformed the divine realm joined hands at the same time. The other 5 friars of Xianming sect didn't even have room to resist. In addition to one person was cut off limbs, leaving a living, the rest were killed by random sword under the cliff. Quick! Tian, who was always watching the battle, suddenly gave a loud drink. With a movement of Xuanxia's hand, he brought Zuan Yangshi back into Xumi ring. The rest of the people quickly cleaned the battlefield, took down the Xumi ring from the corpses, and all of them flashed into the magic cave. And Xianrun, who went to the stone cliff to pick up the 7-star grass, had already returned to the magic cave and also turned into a dark shadow. Tian doesn't neglect it anymore. He has 2 fingers in the middle of the meal together. A magic power hits the magic cave, and the magic cave shrinks quickly. Tian copies it and gets it into Xumi commandment. Then he himself disappeared. After more than 10 breaths, a fury came from afar, and the Mingzun with 2 red flames in his eye socket turned into a white light from afar and fell in front of the cliff. 2 groups of red flame with the skull to scan around, at the same time open mind to search for the dark fog range, but finally nothing. In a rage, Mingzun punches on the cliff. He only hears a bang. The big cliff collapses in half with a blow from him. At this time, there were white shadows flashing around, and nearly 300 gods came together from all directions and fell in front of him. Go and kill them all. It seems that Mingzun has not spoken for a long time. His voice is harsh and harsh. Those ghosts sent out Jie's cry and turned into white shadows again. They flew away in all directions and soon disappeared. 6 or 7 miles away from here, behind a big stone, Tian, who is invisible, sees this picture through the Liangxingkong. There is no emotion fluctuation on his face. And a small moving sign that he held tightly in his hand was gradually released. After staying for more than 10 minutes, Tian was sure that he didn't find him, so he ran away quietly. Among all the people, although the accomplishments of others are higher than those of Yi Tian is the only one with the most excellent hidden killing skills. If you change someone else, you may not be able to escape the search of Ming Zun. Next, Yi Tian did not release anyone, but he continued to go deep underground and returned along the original road. Deep into the ground thousands of feet, there are Liang Xingkong looking after the enemy. Yi Tian is not worried about the sudden appearance of Mingxiu. He has enough time to deal with the danger that may come at any time. Fortunately, although those practices can exert their power in the spirit of the underworld, they are greatly limited in the water and in the earth, and their ability of escaping from the earth is far less powerful than that of Yi Tianlai. All the way smoothly out of the dark fog, continue to sneak more than 20 miles, this time, Yi Tian completely relieved. The purpose of this trip has been completed. We have successfully got the 7-star grass and the space passage. In addition, the remaining evils of Xianming's sect must be eradicated. They didn't have time before, but before they left Luotian's spiritual realm, this thing must be done, otherwise, they would not know how many lives would be left behind. At this point, Yi Tian did not leave the underground. For the sake of safety, he continued to escape for some distance, and then took out the seal magic weapon to create a space. Then he took out the magic weapon cave and went in. Master, is it safe? See Yi Tian come in. Xian Crack hurried to meet up. Yi Tian glanced at the situation inside the cave and saw that the monk who had been captured by Xianming's sect had become a dead body. He said with a smile, "If it's not safe, I won't come in now. Look at your expression and the body, I think soul searching is very rewarding. Master is really powerful. It's a beautiful job." Xian Crack burst out laughing. "Of course, I've got something." "Master, what's this?" As he said that, he made a gesture, and a white ball appeared in his hand. It was a little smaller than his fist, and there were still some radians left in his hand. "This white ball is snow white, and I don't know what material it is made of, but there are many ancient and simple runes on it, with faint streamer." "Is this the net of that day?" Yi Tian looked at it and said happily. Xuanxia handed the ball to Yi Tian and said, "Master is really powerful. He can guess that it's Tian Luo net from the ball. It's really not what we can compare. If we don't search the soul of the elder of Xianming's sect, or kill me, we can't say that the ball is a net. In fact, maybe you don't know that there is something called tennis. Well, that has nothing to do with it. I'll talk about Tian Luo net later. If you have any valuable information, pick the most important one." Yi Tian waved his hand and said, "Well, I've heard of tennis for the first time. It must be a powerful magic weapon. When can I catch up with Master's erudition? Now let's talk about the important message first." Of course, the most important message is the message of the space transport channel. The grotto in Bugue Island is just the passage of space, and from there, it leads to time and spirit realm. He said, "Space access? What's the matter with the dark chi there?" Yi Tian frowned and asked. He realized that there must be something wrong with it. Xiancha explained, "It's like this. I know it from soul searching. On the other side of the space passage is a place called the Ghost Realm and the Spirit Realm of Timon. In fact, it is the underworld. It has a very wide range and numerous underworld practices. Xianming's sect was really a sect in the Timon Spirit Realm. Because of the cultivation of skills, it caused too much killing and was surrounded and killed by some sections. As a result, they had no choice but to go to hell. He was sent to Luotian Lingyu to help Qili Himingzuan, but the elder of Xianming's sect was not willing to be driven by the underworld, and worried that the monks of Timon Lingyu would come to Luotian Lingyu to kill Xianming's sect. So I really did something in the space channel, forming a one-way transmission channel. This transmission channel can only return to the Timon spiritual realm from here, but it can't come back from there. The Xianming sect, whose disciples searched for souls, didn't know exactly how it was realized. These were all done by the great elder of the Xianming sect. Because he lost contact with the space channel of the Timon spirit realm, there was no one there to send him to come over for a long time. Qili Himingzun sent him back to Timon spirit realm to discuss some things, but the sent one also didn't come back. So that Mingzuan sent out several groups one after another, and they all went to the sea. The great elder of Xuanmingzong also reduced the strength of Zhang Mingxia, who did not return to the sea through this method, and he was good at instigating. He even got Tian Luonet in the hand of the demon Zun, tried to break away from the control of the demon Zun, rebuild Xuanmingzong in other places, and tried to dominate the spiritual realm of Luotian. Xuanxie continued, they were going to unite with Xuanzhe's side branch to destroy Xiandazong. At the same time, they used Xiandazong's power to weaken Xuanzhe's side branch, and then they would get rid of Xuanzhe's side branch at no cost. What I want to do is to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. But I don't expect that the tortoise shell shield was broken by the master, and the ghost realm and the spirit of the blood ghost king were broken by the master one after another. After losing all their cards, they began to provoke the Xuanzhe and Xiandazong, and then they took advantage of it. They're afraid that this plan won't work, even the meditation in the place of immortal meteorite. Now nearly 30% of the poison monks in Xianming's sect have died, and several of them have lost their way. 12 of them are under the control of the elder of Xianming's sect, and they are all on the island. What's more, the 3 Hui arrows of Hoyi's bow are hidden in the bones of the skeleton in the hands of this Mingzun. These bones are equivalent to the Xumi commandments of the human friars, which can be stored. Yi Tian interrupted Xuanxie's description and said, well, there's no need to elaborate on the matter of storing things and attaching bones. What's the specific strength of the Mingzun? Did you find it in the soul search? I just feel that this Dark Lord should be very powerful, but how powerful is it? The Dark Lord who searched the soul didn't see him do it with his own eyes, so I can't say it for the moment. Xiancha explained. Yi Tian nodded silently, holding his hands upside down and pacing back and forth in the cave hall. Everyone was waiting quietly. This was the first time they saw Yi Tian thinking so seriously. Under such circumstances, he must be making some very important decisions. People's eyes kept turning around with Yi Tian's steps, until more than 10 minutes later, Yi Tiankai suddenly stopped, looked at the people and said, the next plan is divided into 2 steps. The first step is to detoxify the 9 robber insects of the Xuanzhe people. The detoxification method is to eat the leaves of 7-star grass raw, and urge the medicine to the whole body. 7-star grass can naturally detoxify the 9 robber insects. Old 14, there's enough space outside. Let the other members of the Xian family out and let Xian Run know how to detoxify them. Xian Crack agreed and walked out of the cave. Xian Run bows deeply to Yi Tian, saying nothing. After staying for a few breaths, he gets up and leaves the cave. Not a moment later, the mysterious Crack returned to the cave, and Yi Tian Dao said, Old 14, have you ever tried the power of Tian Luonet? Back to Shifu, all the booty that Ying seized are here. The disciple took out this treasure for a moment of curiosity to check, but he didn't dare to mark his soul. He just waited for Shifu to come back and deal with it. Xian Crack respectfully said. Yi Tian nodded, okay, you should recognize the Lord now, and then try the power of this treasure. As a teacher, you should see his greatest power. Yes, according to Master's instructions. The Xian Crack agrees and begins to recognize the Lord for Tian Luonet. Soon, Tian Luonet was sealed by the mysterious Crack, and this treasure has become a master. After recognizing the Lord, Xuanxie holds the white ball of Tian Luonet, looks around, and asks Yi Tian, are you trying here? I'm afraid it's not suitable, Master. Yi Tian's face sank, and said, the Battle of Friars doesn't have to happen at any time. Is it possible for you to choose the place when you fight against the enemy? A monk with rich experience against the enemy is able to maximize his strength and kill the enemy under various complicated conditions. A monk who doesn't adapt to the complicated situation will eventually be in a disadvantage and be controlled by others. Although this Tian Luonet is more suitable to operate in the vast world, it may be handy, but in the magic cave, it tests a person's proficiency in manipulating magic weapons, reflects the micro-manipulation in and out of the cave, and exercises his ability to reach the realm. Yi Tian's voice and color are all fierce to finish saying, the facial expression is more ugly. For the first time, Xuanxie saw Yi Tian's fierce manner. He couldn't help but feel awe in his heart. Then he immediately realized what he had done and bowed himself to salute. Master said it very well, I have been taught. Even the other incarnation monks of Xuanjia and Yunjia were awe-inspiring, and thought deeply of what Yi Tian said. For example, Yi Tian and all the people here can use hermit, but only Yi Tian's hermit is the best, the most secret, and can even hide from the exploration of Mingzuan, while the rest can't.
Is it a matter of practice time? Certainly not. When he took Xuanxie, he spent countless times of Yi Tian's age in practicing reclusion, and Yi Tian's time in practicing reclusion would not exceed his age, which is certain. But Yi Tian can cultivate to this degree, but Xianxia can't, let alone Xianxia. Anyone else may not be as good as Xianxia. That's the difference in detail. If any supernatural powers and secret arts are only practiced in a general way, and can only be used, there will be no great transcendence and achievements in the end. It is because of Yi Tian's words that people think a lot, and because of Yi Tian's age and the height he has reached now, the passion and indomitable spirit in people's hearts are thoroughly stimulated. No one can imagine that this trip to the spiritual realm of Luo Tian, these people's other gains are far less than those of Yi Tian, which will bring more benefits to their future cultivation. So that these people who were present actually recognized Yi Tian in their heart. Because of Yi Tian's teachings, their future achievements far exceeded those of other monks of the Xian family and the Yin family. Let's not mention it. At this time, Xuanxie obeys Yi Tian's command, holding a white ball in his hand and looking at the people around him, looking for the target. If you want to test the power of Tian Luo Net, you can't do without a target. Only if you use it on monks, you can judge the power of Tian Luo Net from their reaction ability and final effect. Tian Luo Net, to see if it is like Tian Luo Net in general, people are doomed. Seeing that Xuanxie's eyes look at him, Yunzhong quickly retreats to the edge of the cave. He is Xuanxie's father-in-law, although he ranks behind among Yi Tian's disciples. But that only means that I started late, and it doesn't mean anything else. However, if I was caught in the dark cracknet, wouldn't it be too humiliating to be the head of the Cloud family in front of many children of the Cloud family? What's more, he represents the Cloud family. Even though the relationship between the Cloud family and the Xian family is extremely urgent, they are still two different families, and the whole Cloud family has lost face. Yes, old 15, step back. Who knows Xian crack is Chong Yunzhong smile, so said visible, he originally did not want to use Tian Luo Net to catch his father-in-law. As soon as he finished his sentence, a magic power in his hand hit the white ball, but the ball turned into a white light to cover Xianjun and Xianmeng. Seeing that Xuanxie used Tian Luo Net to capture himself, Xianjun and Xianmeng trembled in their hearts and wanted to dodge in a hurry. But unexpectedly, the white light has covered the body, giving off a more dazzling light, as if it was not the net but the white light that covered them. It wasn't until the light disappeared that Tian Luo Net showed its true colors. It was really a big bright net. The net rope is thinner than the little finger. I don't know what material it is made of, but it's extraordinary. Xian Crack once got it, and then he made a move to the net. Tian Luo Net turned into a white ball and flew back to Xian Crack. Xian Jun and Xian Meng in the net were tied together by a rope and couldn't move for half a minute. Master, we can't do harm to both of us. Let the other brothers have a taste of being caught by Tian Luo Net. Inside the rope, Xian Jun and Xian Meng are full of vitality. At first sight, they are not hurt at all, but they look very embarrassed. It seems that they are back to the time when they were first captured. Can we push Tian Luo Net again? But Yi Tian doesn't care about Xianjun and Xuanmeng's awkward appearance, and directly looks at Xuanxie. Try and see, he said in the crack of the Xian family. With a flick of his finger, the shadow of the white ball in his hand flew to another son of the Xian family. The man quickly dodged, but saw that what was flying to him was still just a ball. He didn't turn into a white light, so he reached out and grabbed the white ball in his hand. Who knows that the ball is in the narrow space, a strange turn, flying back to the hands of the crack. Master, I didn't inspire success this time. It should be to take back that rope to be effective. As he spoke, he motioned to the rope that bound Xianjun and Xianmeng. The rope was part of Tian Luo Net, and naturally was controlled by Xuanxia's idea. It turned into a white light, flew back to the ball in Xuanxia's hand, and disappeared in a flash, as if it had never existed alone. Try again. Yi Tian nodded slightly. After hearing the words, the white ball in his hand turned into a white light again, which covered Xianjun and Xianmeng. Everything was the same as before. When Xuanxie took it back again and turned into a strong white ball, Xianjun and Xianmeng were still tied together by the rope.
Just, the facial expression on two people's faces at this time is already the appearance of crying and laughing, pitifully looking at Xiancrack.
Master! Xianmeng called wrongly. He didn't know what to say.
As soon as Xuanxie was about to take back the rope, Tian suddenly said, "Old 14, if you still want to use Tian Luonet at this time, and want to capture Xianjun and Xianmeng alive, how do you operate?
Give it a try."
Xuanxie thought for a while and said, then he grabbed Xianjun and Xianmeng. Xianjun and Xianmeng, who were bound by the rope, were caught by Xuanxie in an instant. They made a series of moves on their hands, patted them a few times, and then put away the rope.
Xianjun and Xianmeng are finally released by Xuanxie, and they flash to the crowd.
However, Xuanxie says, "Don't run.
You've been banned by me. You can't move now." Xianjun and Xianmeng did not dare to move.
Although it was only a virtual prohibition, they did not dare to move if the owner did not let them.
Tian still ignored the two mice, thought about it thoughtfully and said, "Try again, after you bind the target, others can take the target."
When he said this, Xuanxie immediately understood what Tian meant. He could not help but feel ashamed.
It was also his first time to contact Tian Luonet, and Tian suddenly thought of so many problems.
Although such problems would be encountered gradually in the process of using, and he would certainly be able to understand all the details, no doubt he had lost the opportunity at that time. Maybe it's because we don't fully understand all the details at the first time that we can lead to the strength of a confrontation, and even because of such a small negligence, we can end up falling.
"Master, don't try us again."
Seeing Xiancrack and looking at himself and Xianjun, Xianmeng shouts in a hurry.
The Xiancrack nods away, also good, then take yourself to do an experiment. As he spoke, another white light fell, covering Xianmeng in it. Xianjun, take Xianmeng.
Take back the white light ball, Xiancrack toward all over the rope tied Xianmeng a finger.
Xianjun didn't dare to neglect him immediately.
He also used his magic power to reach out to Xianmeng. This time, Xianmeng was not called by him. Instead, he flew slowly to the crack. In the end, he was caught by Xuanxie.
"Master, the disciple can control Tian Luonet with the power of divine thought, but because Xianjun also exerts magic power, the speed is delayed. The speed of recovery should be related to the strength of the mind and mana."
Xiancrack carefully aftertaste for a while, said to the Leaf Day.
"Well, this is a harvest. The more you think about it, the more you will master it.
Because the following plan is very important to use this artifact, you must master all the details and be able to operate it very skillfully.
Now go on with the experiment." Tian nodded slightly. "Yes, master."
The Xiancrack agrees and looks at Xianmeng again. Xianmeng simply went to the ground to lie down and yelled, "Anyway, lying is also a net, standing is also a net, or how comfortable how to come."
"It's not him this time. Try Xianyang stone instead." Tian was amused by Xianmeng's expression to smile, then just said.
Hearing that he was no longer experimenting with himself, Xian flew away from the ground with a thump, and then he dodged behind Xianjun. Xuanxie doesn't pay any attention to them, because they have the best personal relationship with themselves, and it seems that it's not easy to do experiments with the people of the Cloud family, so they can only be wronged. Next, with a gesture, Xuanxie takes out Xianyang stone from Xu Mi ring, and also urges Tian Luonet to bind Xianyang stone with ropes. In the same way, the Xiancrack made a move to the bound Xian stone, but the extremely heavy Xianyang stone was just like Xianmeng, which was randomly moved to the hand by the Xiancrack.
"Try again." Tian stares at Xianyang stone tightly and says quickly.
According to the meaning of Tian, Xuanxie made another experiment.
It was the same as before.
Xianyang stone was easily recruited by him. Tian's face brightened with excitement. Well, the powerful Tian Luonet can ignore the weight of Xianyang stone and be captured so easily. In this way, the net has the magic power of carrying heavy things.
With this in mind, Tian has some plans on how to use tianluo.com. The master is really admirable.
The disciple's mind is still limited to the power of Tian Luonet to catch people and objects. However, the master has already broken through the Tian Luo net itself and thought of other magical functions.
The disciple is far behind him.
Xuanxie said sincerely that up to now, he felt that his thinking could not keep up with Yi Tian.
It seemed that Yi Tian was ahead of everything. What kind of realm will such a master reach in time?
Xuanxie is also looking forward to seeing it as soon as possible.
Try again. How many friars can Tian Luo net capture at most at one time? Yi Tian doesn't pay attention to Xian Crack's praise. He just stares at Tian Luo net and continues to say.
Then he added, do your best to use mana.
Yes, disciple, yes.
Xian Crack happily agreed and tried his best to urge the white bead in his hand. But he didn't expect that this time, the white bead didn't change at all. It was still just the white bead in his hand. Master, I didn't expect that this immortal weapon would consume so much mana. The disciple's mana has been consumed so much that he can't activate the heavenly net. Xian Crack urged again, still so, feeling almost a waste of mana on the body, Xian Crack said helplessly.
Yi Tian nodded his head and said, such an immortal weapon is naturally very mana-consuming.
The reason why you keep pushing this treasure is to know what the limit of times to use this treasure is for a monk who changes the divine realm.
Now I know it.
Speaking of this, Yi Tian continued, Old 14, if you push the mana with all your strength and can spread the Tian Luo net about 2 feet, all the monks within this range will be trapped in it. However, the more people are trapped and the higher the realm is, the more mana the manipulator will consume.
You only bind Xianmeng. The mana consumed by Xianjun and Xianmeng is different.
If you feel it carefully, is that right? When Yi Tian said this, Xuanxie thought over all the previous process carefully, and he found that Yi Tian's words were not bad. As expected, they were all so. But I didn't feel these details, and I can't help feeling very ashamed. Not only him, but also the rest of the monks. Even some of them are just watching the excitement, and some of them are just watching the power of the net on this day.
But no one from those details to consider, on how to use Tian Luo net, how to use Tian Luo net. The gap is not so big. Although Yi Tian didn't criticize anyone, those people lowered their heads and turned red.
So, the reason why the great elder of Xianming's sect didn't use Tian Luo net to us all the time is that he was subject to various restrictions. And they used this immortal weapon to Xianjun and Xianmeng as soon as they made a move. It was because there were few restrictions, and they didn't worry about other people's rescue and interference.
From these details, we can infer something. Why did the Mingzun give it to the great elder of Xianming sect? It's because the Ming people don't have the power of human cultivation.
The unique power of the Ming people can't drive this treasure.
Yi Tian continued.
In fact, according to common sense, we need to do some tests on the tenacity of this treasure.
Are you afraid of fire? We should also test the power in water, even in water.
And also need to know, can bind soul body. But because of some clues, these things will be proved by facts after all, but I have been able to infer them.
This Tian Luo net can't bind the soul body, otherwise the Dark Lord won't give it to the great elder of Xianming sect. Its hardness and fire resistance is certainly no problem, otherwise it will not survive until now.
It should also be used in water and the same species, but the speed in water is slower, and it costs more mana in the soil. In fact, it can be used as a binding rope, which has lost the characteristic of surprise.
When Yi Tian said this, people all thought about Yi Tian's words and nodded.
Well, Old 14th, the reason why you say so much is that your mana is no longer suitable for further experiments.
Recover your mana as soon as possible. There are still important actions to follow. Yi Tian continued.
According to Yi Tian's command, Xuanxie takes a pill to recover his mana and sits in the cave with his knees crossed to recover his mana. The rest of the people also sat down and did their own work. Since Yi Tian said that there should be an action plan next, these people also knew that it must be a fierce battle, so they all wanted to restore their mana to the strongest state.
Even Yi Tian was no exception.
There was still the undigested elixir in his elixir field, and he separated a wisp of mind to observe the movement outside, refining the elixir. As time goes by, Yi Tian is not in a hurry.
Xian Crack can immediately return to its peak state.
Even if Xian Crack recovers now, Yi Tian may not take action now.
Because he wants to consume those people of Xiandazone.
Of course, the longer he takes, the more he consumes.
Moreover, since the old ancestor of Xiandazone practiced his spirit subduing skill, he has consumed the remaining Shouyuan. Every time he restores his original cultivation, Shouyuan will be damaged. In addition, a monk with 5 failures of heaven and man practicing this skill will do much more damage to Shouyuan than ordinary people.
The more mana you spend, the more Shouyuan you spend. Although each time can only be calculated according to minutes and on time, a large consumption is likely to be calculated in days and 10 days, and the time is not a small sum.
As an old monk in his old age, how many longevity yuan can he consume?
About a day later, in fact, only a third of the day had passed, and the magic power of the mysterious crack had returned to its best state, and the rest of the people were full of energy and eager to try. Yi Tian also ended the refining of the elixir, and felt that the mana in the elixir field was even more advanced than before, reaching the best state in history. He glanced slowly over the monks in the magic weapon cave and said slowly, "Okay, everyone, I'll talk about the next action now. First of all, I want to talk about the objectives and reasons of this operation, and then I want to talk about the specific action plan.
At present, we have 2 opponents. One is Xiandazone.
They always have evil intentions towards us and are always looking for opportunities to start.
This enemy must be removed. The other is meditation. We can all see the strength of meditation. It's the strongest of our 2 rivals.
Originally, we had 3 opponents.
Of course, the third one was Xuanmingzone. As their cutting-edge power was destroyed by us, they were no longer our opponents.
But these things that harm people must be removed, and to remove them, we must face the practice of the underworld.
They are one.
Whether they are 3 opponents or 2 opponents, they are mainly Xiandazong and the practice of the underworld. If we deal with Mingxiu first, and there is Xiandazong out there, we may be attacked at any time.
Compared with the underworld, the strength of Xiandazong is much weaker.
So, we should choose the soft squeeze for persimmons.
After pinching Xiandazong, we can deal with the underworld boldly.
We have plenty of time to deal with the underworld clan. Even if we break each one, we need to kill them all. The flesh and bones they need are all from our Terran friars. Because of their different positions and interests, Terrans and the underworld are natural enemies, and there is no place to relax.
Since they have come, we should do some good things for the Terran friars.
Think about it, that sea area is called No Return to the Sea. If it is not for countless years, there are countless monks who can't come back. How can they be called No Return to the Sea? Just now, we have unified our thinking and determined our goals.
Now I will focus on the action plan.
In order to achieve our strategic goals without causing any casualties, my plan is like this. Please listen carefully. This time, Yi Tian explained the action plan in detail, and it took him more than an hour to finish. Not only the details of the operation have been well explained, but also various plans have been made for various possible situations, and even the distribution of manpower has been planned in great detail. More than 2 hours later, Yi Tian, Xuanxie and 6 other Xuanjie friars, who were at the top of the divine realm, were already in the fog. It's about 100 miles from the edge of the fog sea. All of them were invisible in the fog sea, standing quietly, without causing any fluctuation of the dark air. When Yi Tianyuan's eyes shine through, he can naturally see the situation of the other 7 people, but the 7 people can't see Yi Tian. At this time, the 7 people, after careful dressing, were not what they looked like when they came out of the magic cave. Everyone's clothes were ragged, there were many tears, and the tears were stained with bright red blood. Moreover, the 7 people were all in a disorderly bun, and their faces were smeared with blood from the Xin Ming patriarch. It seemed that their breath was weak and their mana was seriously wasted. Among the 8 people, Yi Tian is the only one who was as beautiful and shining as before. He does not have any makeup and appears in his true colors. They have been hiding in the dark fog for some time, and everyone is waiting for Yi Tianxia's order. Bit by bit, in addition to Yuan Tian's eyes observing the surrounding situation, Yi Tian always separated a wisp of mind to observe the various pictures in his mind. At a certain moment, Yi Tian suddenly sent a message to 7 people. Now, action begins, act according to the original plan. After hearing Yi Tian's command, the 7 people of Xuanxie immediately fled to the edge of the Sea of Fog. Because they deliberately did it, the dark fog rolled and surged, which was obviously different from the dark fog in other places. In the dark fog, 7 or 8 miles away, the patrol team with 60 or 70 gods as a team found this abnormal situation, and immediately ran to this side at full speed to catch up. After finding the pursuers behind, Xuanxie and others slowed down, showing that their mana was no longer available. However, Tian didn't control Xuanxie and others, and released 2 teams of heavenly wings to fly out of the dark fog at the fastest speed. After counting the breath, Xuanxie and the other 6 monks at the top of Washinjing threw out a piece of bone one after another, then cut it off with a sword, and the clear sound of fighting spread far away. After so many times, Shen Crack and others hit several mana in the air behind them, which also caused a lot of noise. At this time, while fleeing and pursuing, Xuanxie and others were less than 10 miles away from 60 or 70 Minxiu, and their bodies had appeared on the edge of the fog sea. When they just got out of the fog sea, Xuanxie and others showed their bodies one after another. They fled to the distance in a hurry. Seeing that Ningxiu was getting closer, these people fled into the sea one after another. They chased more than 10 miles in the air, and then stopped. The appearance of these Terran friars is obviously a little unusual, and their previous behavior is also a little strange. When the chase fades, they suddenly realize something. Originally, there were dozens of human friars. Why did you only see them? They know that in the process of not returning to the sea, it is clear that there is no fight between the same clan and the Terran friars. Why do they flee in such a dilemma? There must be deceit. It's easy to think of this. When the Terran friars were withdrawing from the fog sea, they were chopping their own bones and making such a loud noise. Did they attract more people to pursue and kill them? All kinds of signs are linked together. Instead of continuing to delay at sea, these meditations, who have lived for countless years, fly away in a flash, fearing that they will be ambushed by the Terran friars. 20 minutes after those monks flew back into the fog, on the sea surface 60 or 70 miles away from the fog, Xuanxie and the figures of the other 6 monks emerged from the sea. They looked around on the surface of the sea, and then sank into the water. 400 or 500 miles away, Sima Qiangkong, the ancestor and leader of Xiandao sect, and more than 30 disciples of Washinjing were standing in the air, sensing the situation on the side of Xuanxie. Originally, there were more than 40 of them. Because they were overcast by Yi Tianyin, one of them fell down, and several others were seriously injured. They had already returned to Xiandazong to recuperate. Laozu, in my opinion, there seems to be no problem. There should be no deceit. It's been more than a day since they entered the no-return sea. Although we can't feel the situation in the foggy sea, the skeletons must have had a fierce battle with them. Although the people of the Xian family know how to hide themselves, they can easily be seen through the sea of fog, just as they were discovered by the skeletons when they escaped. The best result is that they were scattered. To be more tragic, there are probably only these people left. Sima Qiangkong, who is standing beside Laozu, looks back and analyzes. What do you think? The immortal ancestor asked the other monks with an uncertain look on his face. The disciples think that the analysis of the patriarch is very reasonable. No matter how the monks of the Xin family go into the sea of no return, they can't retreat completely, and they are just chased out by the skeletons. We all see this with our own eyes. There's absolutely no mistake. The skeletons won't cooperate with them in acting, said one of the monks, who seemed to have more prestige. When he finished his speech, other monks also spoke one after another, all of which agreed with Sima Qiangkong's opinion. Sima Qiangkong, who hated the monk of the Xian family to the bone, was more confident when he heard that so many people agreed with him. He said again, Laozu, I know that you care about the person whose surname is Yi. I don't know whether he is alive or dead. But as long as you catch the monk of the Xian family, you will know after searching for the soul. We may even know some more reliable ways to increase Shouyuan. Besides, we don't have no cards. Even if there is fraud, we will win. The audience said that, plus Sima Qiangkong's words, the thin old face of Xiandazong gradually calmed down. After thinking about it, he said, You bastards, do you think I'm afraid of the Xians? What I want to do is how to arrange the field of the immortal killing array for my clan. The one surnamed Ji never shows up. I'm just afraid that I will attack those people of the Xian family rashly and disturb him again.
His hiding skill is not broken by ordinary people.
Sima Qiankong heard the speech and said, because of this, maybe the one surnamed Ji didn't die.
Instead, he was invisible and didn't dare to show up.
In the dark fog, he certainly didn't take part in the war because of his cultivation, but Xuanxie and others were all tired and consumed too much mana.
And did Lao Zu notice? What does it mean that the 7 people's cultivation state will turn into the highest cultivation state of the divine realm?
It's very possible that the monks of the lower realm have fallen into the sea of no return.
Now they are all meditating on the bottom of the sea to recover their mana. If it is delayed, we will have to spend a lot of time when their mana is recovered.
Or they are just separated. Once we get together, we will inevitably have casualties.
Go and have a look.
After a linguistic offensive on the left and a linguistic offensive on the right, the ancestor of Xiandazong finally made a decision. He said in a cold voice and flew to the distant sea. No, they've found our people. They've lost their bodies.
Sima Qiankong's mind always covered the location of the crack.
During the flight, he suddenly said, and I can't see where they went at all.
Haha, you have little experience. I'll tell you, they didn't go anywhere. Instead, they just stayed in the same place and didn't dare to move.
Otherwise, no matter they went to other places or went underground, they would leave a trace. Especially when you enter the underground, even if you touch the earth a little, even if you use the technique of hiding in the earth, you will get a little bit of sand.
Go where you are and watch out.
I'm not fit to use too much mana now because of the 5 failures of heaven and man, the old ancestor of Xiandazong said, with the back of his hand facing out and waving to the front.
Go as fast as you can.
Since the ancestor took the initiative to let himself act, Sima Qiankong didn't bother to pay any attention to the dying old man, so he took more than 30 disciples to flee to the sea area where the mysterious crack disappeared. The distance of 400 or 500 miles is not suitable for these monks. In a short time, Sima Qiankong and others have arrived at the target sea area.
Let me try it first. When Sima Qiankong's divine thoughts went to the bottom of the sea, he still didn't find the existence of Xuanxie and others.
Moreover, in the process of flying to this place, he always used his divine thoughts to lock this position, and he didn't find any wind and grass, and there was no abnormal fluctuation of the sea. Then, with a gesture, he took out a spirit beast ring from Shumi commandment, and dozens of various sea monsters appeared out of thin air and plunged into the sea. One of the sea monsters with long tentacles has reached the 6th level, which is equivalent to the realm of human beings. The rest of the sea animals have also reached the 5th level.
Sure enough, it's still in the sea.
Sima Qiankong, who pays close attention to the movement of the sea bottom, sees the sea beast flying away from the place where it disappeared before the dark crack. In that area, the 7 monks, including the dark crack, suddenly show their origins and rush up to escape, trying to escape from the sea and fly into the sky. In the sea demon occupies a natural advantage, but the Terran friars are greatly limited. This kind of choice is undoubtedly the most correct one, and it is also the normal reaction that Xuanxie and others should show. Surround yourself. Seeing this scene, Sima Qiankong had no doubt. He gave a loud drink, flashed and flew over the place where the mysterious crack was. His gesture moved again. A large number of sea monsters rushed out of the ring of spirit beasts and rushed towards the mysterious crack and others. Meanwhile, more than 30 other monks of Washinjing came to Sima Qiankong in a short time and scattered in a circle to prevent the 7 men from breaking through the siege of the sea demon and flying into the sky. Sima Qiankong sent out 400 or 500 sea animals, which rushed to Xuanxie and others. With a frown and a movement of his hand, he released the 600 monsters in the spirit beast ring. After training to a certain extent, the monsters can naturally use all kinds of environments, and the land monsters have no problems in the sea. But compared with the sea monsters, the land monsters have no advantages. Tian designed a variety of ways to deal with emergencies, including this situation. But Xian Crack didn't expect that the other side actually had monsters, and there were a lot of them. This is actually taken into account by Tian, and the shock in Xuanxia's heart can be imagined.
Search the soul of the monk named Lin Feng in Yuanyingjing of Xiandazong.
Although he knew that Xiandazong had captured sea monsters, Lin Feng himself didn't know that there were so many sea monsters who had already recognized their masters.
But Yi Tian didn't search for the souls of any monks in the Immortal sect, and he didn't tell Yi Tian some more specific information about the Immortal sect. How could Master think so far? In fact, he didn't know that Yi Tian knew that there was a sea demon in Xiandazong, because the 5-element bead was swallowed by the turtle, and the sea demon was captured by Xiandazong. Sima Changkong released less than 500 sea monsters, while Xuanxie released more than 600 land monsters, which greatly occupied the advantage in quantity. In Sima Changkong's sea demons, there are 5 sixth-order monsters, while there are 7 friars at the top of the mystical realm on the side of Xuanxie, who still have an advantage in the top power. Go to the sea. Seeing that the fight under the sea has evolved to such a degree, and that there are so many monsters in the dark crack, which Sima Changkong did not expect, but the two sides have been fighting together. Whoever calls the monsters to retreat first will be in the situation of being pursued and killed. It's not easy to get these sea demons. Sima Changkong has always been the most mysterious card of Xiandazong. How can he easily lose it? He took the lead in the sea with a big drink. Other monks of our sect followed them into the sea. At the moment of entering the sea, suddenly more than 20 monks appeared in the empty sea and air, and hundreds of monsters swooped down from the sky to the more than 20 monks who had not yet entered the sea. No, it's a trick. A monk of Xiandazong shouts and flies away in the distance with a flash of his body. But when he flies away, 2 sword lights suddenly appear out of thin air and cut him madly. The monk of Xiandazong dodged in a hurry, but the opponent's sword was too hasty, and he attacked and killed stealthily. Although he dodged fast, he could only avoid one sword in a hurry, but the other sword just crossed his ribs, and blood gushed out in an instant. Just when he was injured, another monk of Xuanjia's second sword had been cut again. At this time, the monk of Xiandazong had already avoided for 5 times. If an arrow of electric light was cut off from his neck, a head flew to meet the blade and fell into the sea far away. He was about to fly away, but was crushed by a burst of sword light. Dare to kill my disciple. Suddenly there was a big drink in the sky, and then a black light flashed from the distance and shot at the Xuanjia monk who killed the disciples of the Immortal sect. Don't you dare to fight my Xian family. I want to die at this time. Suddenly a big drink issued, and then a flash of white light, cover to the flying shadow. The white light and the black shadow collided in front of the Xuanjia disciple. After the light and shadow swayed for a while, the black and the white light showed their original shapes. But I saw a big white net covering a black arrow with thick and thin thumb, moving slowly in front of the mysterious crack who came out of the sea. And the figure in the distance, already fast as lightning, pounced on the dark crack. Just as the man was about to jump in front of the mysterious crack, a transparent shield suddenly appeared out of thin air. The man suddenly hit the shield, rebounded and recovered, and then hit the other side of the shield. He must be able to see his face clearly. It's Yunhong, the ancestor of Xiandazong. Little shield, what can I do? Shangguan Yunhong was trapped in the field of the 8-pole array. His momentum exploded and his gesture moved. Another black arrow with the thickness of his thumb appeared out of thin air. He put it on the arrow string of a big black bow in his left hand. In an instant, he pulled the bow like a full moon and shot an arrow to the shield of the field of the 8-pole array. Poof! The field shield of the 8-pole array, which is controlled by 8 monks in the spirit realm and can trap the great friars in the Yupu realm, was smashed by an arrow shot by the ancestor of Xiandao sect and turned into pieces. However, after being blocked by the powerful shield of the field of the 8-pole array, the black arrow that broke the shield of the field was also defused by 7 or 8 points of force, and the dark crack figure was caught in the hand in a flash. Give me back the arrow. The ancestor of Xiandazong gave a big drink, and a black bamboo appeared on his hand again. In a moment, it was put on the string, and it was about to shoot towards the dark crack. But what no one can imagine is that the black bow in his hand is only half opened, but it suddenly screams, the bow and arrow in his hand suddenly fall off, and the whole person is also tottering, as if his mana has been exhausted. The field of the 8-pole array was broken. 2 of the monks, holding the rare spirit transforming realm, saw that the ancestor of Xiandazong was in such a situation, and immediately jumped at him. One of them cut off the man's arm easily with a sharp sword light. However, another man saw that the ancestor of Xiandazong was really at the end of the crossbow, but he didn't kill him.
Instead, he put his fingers on his body, closed several important acupoints and meridians, and closed his cultivation. Then he took the figure of this man and withdrew from the war. The scene that the ancestor of Xiandazan was caught by mistake was seen by many disciples of Xiandazan. At this time, many monks of Xuanjia and Yunjia joined in the battle. There were more than 1,200 monsters in the Xian side, which was more than twice the number of the Xiandazan. There is no comparison between the two sides. Sima Changkong was shocked when he saw the situation. He felt that he had been careful enough, and he was so schemed. At this time, the monsters on both sides were injured and killed to varying degrees, but the number of monsters on Sima Changkong's side was so small that he could not help consuming them, and there were Xuanjia friars to kill those sea monsters, so there was almost no hope. On the other hand, the disciples of Xiandazan also began to suffer casualties, especially the mysterious crack. The white light flashed in their hands. With only 2 strokes, 2 disciples were captured by them, and their life and death were uncertain. Retreat quickly, one who can escape is one. At this time, Sima Changkong saw that the situation had gone, and he could not help but shout. He could not even care about the sea demons, and he was about to fly away. Where to go? But at this time, Xuanxie yells, and the Tian Luo net in his hand is still pressing. A white light covers Sima Changkong in a flash, and then the white light turns into a big net. After the big net disappears, it turns into a white light ball and returns to Xuanxia's hand, but Sima Changkong is firmly tied by the rope. Then Xuanxia reaches for a move, and Sima Changkong, who has been tied firmly, has reached Xuanxia's hand. Then he claps his hands, and Sima Changkong has been closed. Then, Xian split his heart and thought, the rope tied to Sima Changkong turned into a light and flew into the white ball. He followed Sima Changkong into the ring of Spirit Beast, and the sky net in his hand was sent out again to cover another monk of Xiandazan who was fighting with 2 monks of the Cloud family. Originally, this man was in danger under the attack of Friar Yun. It was only a matter of time before he was killed. However, at this time, there was no target to capture. The rest of the disciples of Xiandazan were surrounded and killed by at least 3 or 4 of their own people, or by dozens or hundreds of monsters. Only this balance of power is a little more balanced. No accident, this man was captured by the mysterious Tian Luo net and put into the Spirit Beast ring. At this time, the only one who didn't join the battle was the commander of the whole army. Yi Tian. If he didn't use the Mask of Grimace, he would not be qualified to join the fight of the monks in the spirit realm. Even against a 5th level sea demon, he has to use Xiaoxumi sword array to do it. But to deal with the 5th level sea demon, there are more than 1,000 land monsters. He doesn't have a hand at all, and he doesn't mean to. Seeing that his side has completely controlled the battle, and soon the whole battle will be over, he begins to show his sourcei and watch some sea monsters in a safe corner. Among these sea monsters, there are 8 turtles, 7 of which are in the 5th level and 1 in the 6th level. This one is not. There are no beads. Yi Tianxian made a perspective of the 6th order turtle, but did not find the 5 element beads. Then he looked at the nearest turtle, and there were no beads in his body. Jianling, do you remember what the turtle that swallowed the 5 element pearl looked like? Yi Tian's body flashed and ran to another turtle a little farther away. At the same time, he sent out a message to the purple cloud dragon sword spirit in the fierce soldier's flying sword. Master, it's a little turtle. Think about it, Master. Even if it's a human baby, I've seen it once in my childhood, and how many years later, who can know what it will look like? But in my memory, the turtle is a female. The sword spirit seems very helpless to reply away. How to distinguish between male and female? It seems that the turtles here are different from the ones I know. Yi Tian asked while he was looking at the turtle not far away with Yuan Tian Ai. The female has 2 small tiger teeth, but the male doesn't. The turtle showed 2 small tiger teeth when it swallowed the 5 element pearl. The sword spirit returns quickly. Yi Tian was speechless for a while. He didn't want to talk to Jianling about this problem anymore. When these turtles fight against each other, they all retract their heads into their shells, and then their bodies keep circling rapidly. Their whole bodies are like sharp axes, and they collide back and forth, with great lethality. However, the turtle's head has shrunk into the shell, even the head cannot be seen, let alone to find the little tiger teeth.
If you catch a turtle and see if it has tiger teeth, or go through the solid shell of the turtle to see if it has tiger teeth through the source eye, it's better to directly look for the 5-element beads. Originally, Tian thought that after a long time, no one could say whether the 5-element pearl swallowed by the turtle had been taken away by the people of Xiandazong, or whether the turtle had died. The 5-element pearl had not been found. He didn't know where to throw the corpse. But since the existence of sea turtles is found in many sea demon groups, Tian doesn't want to give up even if it is 1 in 10,000. After all, he is idle now. He can't participate in such a large-scale war. In this way, when he found the 5th turtle, under the perspective of Yuan Tian Eye, a high-speed rotating turtle immediately attracted Yi Tian's attention. When he confirmed it carefully, he felt excited. Through Yuan Tianian, he found a pearl in the turtle's body. It was pure white and it was not a night pearl. Old 14, come here and get this turtle for me. Yi Tian Gang wants to find someone to help, but he finds that Xuanxie is protecting himself not far away. At this time, in the battlefield, except for some sea demons, the rest of the monks of Xiandazong had killed or captured them. Okay, I'll bring it up right away. Does Master want to stew with this female turtle? Shen crack along Yi Tian's finger to see one eye, in the mouth say, in the hand of a white light already sent out. How do you know it's a female turtle with her head in her shell? Yi Tian can't help but ask curiously. Master, it's strange. The male and female of sea turtles should not only look at their heads, but at certain parts. Xuanxie casts a meaningful glance at Yi Tian. He turns his eyes and doesn't know where he wants to go. However, he doesn't neglect it at all. Tian Luonet has tied the turtle, and then he turns into a white ball and goes back to Xuanxie's hand. However, the bright rope binds the turtle firmly without accident. Doubt you just promised me not to fight her. Why don't you keep your word? At this time, the 6th-step turtle that Yi Tian had seen before rushed out of the sea and turned into a big black-faced man, with a sullen look on his face, shouting to Xuanxie. The most obvious feature of this big man is that his neck is a little long, his eyes are a little small, like Mung Bean, and he is very happy. Tortoise, please don't be impatient. Xuanmo won't lose his words when he promised you something. This is Xuanmo's master. My master has something important to do. I need to ask this turtle to meet me. Shen crack facial expression as Ji says with smile. Nonsense, just now I heard you and this Terran friar talking about stew, as well as about mother and father. Aren't you talking about how to eat my lover? Or do you have any thoughts about my Taoist partner? The black-faced man said angrily, and his momentum burst out, so he wanted to find Shen crack. Inordinate ambitions? Yi Tian looked at the black guy, the size of a millstone, whose head and tail were hidden in the turtle shell, with a strange expression on his face. Old 14, what's the matter? Quickly explain, and you. Then, the black-faced man of the 6th-level turtle in Yi Tian dynasty pointed out, shut up first, right and wrong, you will naturally give you justice. If you dare to do it without authorization, you will kill you every minute. Well, I'll see what else you Terrans want to play. The 6th-order turtle took a look at the turtle in the dark crack hand, suppressed the anger in his heart, and really did not dare to act rashly, but a pair of Mung Bean like small eyes flashing fierce light, staring at the bound 5th-order turtle tightly. Xuanxie waved his hand to the 6th-level turtle to show him not to be impulsive. Then he said to Yi Tian, it was said that this is a female turtle just now, because this turtle Taoist friend once explained to his disciples that this is his lover. Master, I've finished answering this question, and then I'll talk about the reason why I talked with this tortoise Taoist friend. These sea monsters are the main monsters of Xiandazong. They are all controlled by Sima Changkong. Before the disciple captured Sima Changkong, the tortoise Taoist friend saw it at that time. Because the master had been captured, the tortoise Taoist friend had no intention to fight to the death, so he told his disciples that if he and his lover could be let go, he would no longer fight for the enemy. So the disciple agreed to him, but what's the matter with the Taoist friend? It's a female tortoise. Don't take us as human beings. Hearing Shen crack's so-called, the 6th-level turtle monster retorted immediately, with a resentful expression on his face. Well, you'll be a female turtle friend. Xuanxie felt angry and funny. He didn't insist on what to call him. He immediately changed his words and said, "My master must have something important to do with this female tortoise Taoist friend. Tortoise Taoist friend can rest assured that he has no bad intention." Xuanmo was also a teacher, so he invited this female turtle friend to meet him. As a result, Jiang Doya misunderstood, so it is. After listening to Xuanxie, Yi Tian knows the whole story and looks at the sea demons besieged by one of his demons. His face shows the color of meditation. Originally, there were 400 or 500 sea monsters. After a fierce battle, more than 100 were killed. There were more than 300 remaining sea monsters. Among them, there were 8 sixth-order sea monsters. One of them still maintained its ontological form and failed to transform into human form, while the other 7 were all transformed into human form. If the monster is in the spirit beast ring, the master can communicate with the monster from the outside and command it. In other words, since Sima Changkong was captured in the ring, these sea monsters have become ownerless monsters and lost their control. Although Sima Changkong's divine impression is still there, these sea monsters are already free. Unless Sima Changkong can still come out of the spirit beast ring, he can still decide the life and death of these sea monsters through the divine impression. After thinking about this in a moment, Yi Tian said to the black-faced man who was transformed by the 6th-level sea turtle monster, "This tortoise Taoist friend, ye can be the master at this time, and will never hurt your lover. Only because he has something of Ye's school in his body, so he asked your Taoist friend to come and return it. After ye gets this thing, he will not hurt Dao Yu and your lover. If you can help ye persuade the rest of the sea demons, ye will give your lover a chance." "You're talking about that bead?" the 6th-order turtle monster asked. Yi Tian nodded, "Exactly." "Really? That's it?" The black face of the 6th-order turtle monster boldly looks at Yi Tian suspiciously, and his face is full of unbelievable expression. "If so, old 14 and old 15, let our monsters surround us first and wait for the negotiation here. Tortoiseway friend, you also think of a way to let those sea demon temporarily don't act rashly, otherwise Yi Mao this side absolutely won't polite. Why don't you get things done over there first, and we'll talk about it later." Yi Tian nods slightly, greets Xuanxie and Yunzhong, and then says to the 6th-level turtle that Yi Tian is very patient with this kind of sea demon whose intelligence is not as good as human beings. "Really? That's it? I wish you, the friars of the human race, could keep your word," the 6th-level turtle asked. When he saw Yi Tian nodding, he said another word. Then he plopped into the sea and came to the outside of the battle group. He said to the more than 300 sea monsters inside, "Don't move your hand for the time being. The old white hair of Xiandazan was caught by these Taoist friends. They should have no intention to kill us, and they don't need to work hard. We should be able to survive if we have a talk with them." His voice really worked. The sea monsters wanted to break out of the encirclement, but now they heard that they didn't have to fight, so they naturally calmed down. "This is Yi Daoyu of the human race. I've already appeased many of my peers after listening to you. You must keep your promise. I'll let my lover return your master's immortal treasure to Daoyu now." With these words, the 6th-step turtle came to the 5th-step turtle, and suddenly became gentle. "Little flower, you give them back the beads, darling. This kind of thing is useless to us orcs." Also said that beauty, so many years did not see where you beauty, eyes are still so small, face is still so black, there is no need to lose a small life because of this kind of thing. If you like round things, don't you like to lay your own eggs? Yi Tian almost laughed when he heard the speech. When the 5th-order turtle heard the 6th-order turtle's words, his head came out of the turtle's shell, and his eyes glared at the 6th-order turtle. With this mouth, he spurted out the white bead from his mouth. At the moment when he opened his mouth, Yi Tian saw that there were 2 small tiger teeth in the mouth of the 5th-level turtle, and he was surprised. But he didn't want to think much about it. The white bead just came out of the mouth of the 5th-step turtle. He reached out and moved the white bead into his hand. After a careful look, nothing can be seen from the surface. Then Yi Tiansheni unwrapped the bead, imprinted the soul on it, and then entered the sea. Holding the bead and pressing it with magic power, a magical scene appeared. Originally, there was sea water all around his body. As the bead was pushed, a magical force suddenly came out from the bead. The seawater around his body was oppressed in all directions in a moment.
There was a vacuum about half a meter around him, and there was no water drop.
These 5-element beads are really good things.
A burst of ecstasy in Yi Tian's heart slowly collected the mana, the vacuum around him gradually shrinks, and the sea water comes to him again.
Yi Tian had an idea at this time. He continued to pour mana into the 5-element beads.
With the increasing strength of the mana he poured, the sea water around him quickly went back, and the vacuum area he opened up became larger and larger, reaching a radius of 2 or 3 feet. At this time, he completely recovered his mana and sent the beads into Shumi Ring.
It turned out that the vacuum that the 5-element beads could open up was controlled by mana.
The stronger the mana, the larger the space, and vice versa.
If you don't input mana, there is no space.
What a treasure!
Yi Tian is not trying to test the effects of other elements in the 5 elements. There is something to be solved right now. It's not too late to try again in the future.
He is satisfied with the magical power of water alone. It's really the thing of the school. Now it's time to talk about Ye's fortune to this female Taoist friend. We all know that after the animal cultivation reaches the 6th level, its mana will become abundant, and it will have the opportunity to impact the 360 orifices of the whole body with its own mana, so that the body will have a magical change, and it will be able to speak and turn into human form. Back in the air, Yi Tian nodded with satisfaction and said to the 6th level turtle,
"This is common sense. All monsters know this truth. What does it have to do with what you call nature?"
The 6th step turtle said with a frown.
Yi Tian said with a smile, "Of course, it's related. I want to ask you, how long did it take you to attack 360 orifices around your body, to be able to vomit words, to transform into human form, and to change completely?" After listening to Yi Tian's question, the 6th level turtle thought for a long time and then said slowly, "This process takes a long time. I can't remember it clearly.
I feel that it should be at least 1,000 years from the first orifice to the last orifice." Yi Tian listened patiently to the other party, then nodded again with a smile. "Yes, entering the 6th level only shows that there is an opportunity to transform. For monsters, if they can't transform into shapes, they are not really the 6th order, they are just the fake 6th order. There must be some monsters who have entered the 6th level who can't break through the 360 orifices and lose the chance to transform themselves. Ye can refine a kind of elixir, called washing elixir, which can help the 6th level demon cultivation break through 360 orifices in a short time and achieve the power of washing."
Washing pill? What Taoist friends say is that kind of legendary pill of transforming form and spirit?
Hearing Yi Tian's words, the 6th level sea demon asked in shock.
Yi Tian definitely replied, "Yes, it's this kind of pill. I think Dao you have heard about it."
"You should have heard about the effect of this kind of pill?" Hearing the words, the 6th level turtle had a look of reminiscence in his eyes. "When I was very young, I once heard the elders of the family say this pill. For example, our turtle family has a long life, but it's very difficult to transform. I heard that there was such a kind of pill, but it was a pity that I never met it."
What Dao you means is, can you give my lover a shape-transforming pill and help him to shape after entering the 6th level? Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
It's also a reward for Taoist friends' lovers to keep the things of Ye's school for many years. There are those sea monsters, if they are willing to follow Yi, and perform well enough to satisfy Yi, they will have a chance to get a washing pill if they advance to the 6th level one day.
Dao you can ask who is willing to follow Yi.
Of course, if you don't want to, Yi needs their demon elixir, so you can make the best use of it. Yi Tian said this with a carrot and a big stick, which made the expression on the 6th level turtle's face constantly changing. Yi Tian continued, "Of course, there is another point that needs to be explained.
Washing pill cannot be preserved for a long time.
It can only be taken within 3 days after refining so as not to lose its power.
Yi Mao is not a person from the spirit realm of Luo Tian.
Maybe he will leave here soon.
The shape-transforming pill he promised you can only be refined when he returns to the spirit realm of Luo Tian in the future. And you and your partner, Yi, have decided to give you back your freedom. Thank you very much, Dao Yu."
Hearing the words, the 6th level turtle showed a look of joy on his face, and then said, "I'll go and talk to those of the same race now, and let them choose for themselves."
"Go ahead."
Yi Tian said, then no longer pay attention to the 6th level turtle, to not far away Cloud Zhong and Xian crack-waved, called them to the front. Old 14, old 15, now the pattern of power in Luotian Lingyu has completely changed. When it's time to shuffle, how do you think about things here after I leave Luotian Lingyu? Yi Tian at the same time to two people sound asked. Xian Crack and Cloud Zhong looked at each other. Xian Crackway, old 15, you say first. Yun Zhong didn't show any humility, so he went straight to Yi Tian and Xuanxie and said, Master, I think so. The Cloud family belongs to an ordinary family in the Lansang spiritual realm and doesn't have much say. Although the aura of Luo Tian's spiritual realm is a little rarer, it is rich in cultivation resources, and there are not two strong monks. The Cloud family is going to create a branch in the Luo Tian spirit domain, and obtain the resources here to provide the Cloud family's direct family in Lansang spirit domain. In this way, after years of accumulation, the Cloud family will certainly become more and more powerful. When Yun Zhong finished speaking, Yi Tian looked at Xuanxie again. Xuanxie understood, and both of them said, I think so too. Originally, there was a branch of Xuanjia in Luotian's spiritual realm. Now, although it is destroyed, the foundation of Luotian's spiritual realm can't be lost. Master once said that there may be a catastrophe in the future. After all, there will be one more way to retreat when operating two spiritual realms at the same time. In terms of resources, the Xuanjia family also needs the support of Luo Tian's spiritual realm. Yi Tian is already expecting their thoughts. Hearing this, he ponders, the foundation of Luo Tian's spiritual realm can't be given up. It's natural. But you two must pay attention to that, not acting alone, but working together. Moreover, the space channel should be well controlled, and there should be no internal strife between the two sides. What you need to do in Luotian's spiritual realm is not only to earn resources, but also to integrate the power of Luotian's spiritual realm. It's not about annexing them all or making them submit to them, but it's about enhancing your appeal and influence, and constantly improving the strength of your two families. Only in this way can you have enough strength to cope with the catastrophe in the future and not collapse completely. On the other hand, I still have some contacts in the Great Wilderness spiritual realm. The Alliance leader Yen Lai is my elder brother. If you need anything, you can find a way to go to the Great Wilderness spiritual realm. The top forces there are more powerful. There are more than 100 great friars in Yupu realm. And my brother, Alliance leader Yen Lai, has entered the Heaven Palace, should be able to help you. This is my keepsake. With these words, Yi Tian gestured, and two tokens appeared on his hand. He handed one of them to Xuanxie. This is the token of the Dragon's Gate Holy Sun. He is the master of the Great Wilderness Holy Sun. With this token, Yen Lai can believe your identity after seeing it. Later, he handed another token to Yun Zhong. This is the token of the Alliance leader's special envoy, which can also prove your identity. If you can't find my brother-in-law, you can also use this card to find the Lanling King there. She is in charge of more than 300 cities in the Great Wilderness. She is a great friar in Yupu Kingdom. She has great power and has a good personal relationship with her teacher. She should also be able to help you. It's the first time for Xuanxie and Yunzhong to hear Yi Tian talk about his identity in detail. Although Yi Tian mentioned it briefly before, they still didn't expect that their master of Longmen realm would have such a great influence in the Great Wilderness. According to what Master said before, his time in the Great Wilderness spiritual realm was very short, and in a short period of time, how could he accumulate such contacts? When they think of this, they can't help but feel waves and waves in their hearts. In other people's eyes, it's shameful for them to recognize a monk in Longmen as their teacher. But when they really know the origin of Master, they feel that they are still high. Let's not talk about the spiritual realm of the Great Wilderness. Let's just talk about the spiritual realm of Lansang. The great friars of the Holy Wing also respectfully call their master their grandmaster. The master's school has an immortal background. I'm afraid that no one can compare with all the spiritual realms. Just holding the token, they had some premonition in their hearts. They looked at each other and said, Master, are you not going to send us to time and spiritual realm? I've told you all these things so early. Yi Tian pointed to Xuanxie and Yunzhong and laughed, you two look like a girl. It's just a trip back to Dixing's hometown.
It's not life and death. The spaceway to the Earth star is beyond the reach of the monks in the spirit realm. This space passage to the Two Wild spirit realm can only go and cannot return.
There are more than 1,000 monsters, some treasures, and various means to deal with some dangerous situations. Therefore, you should put all your energy on the operation here, so as to be a teacher, you can rest assured. One day, when I need you as a teacher, you can also help me as a teacher, you know? Here, I also work for my teacher. Do you understand? Well, since Shifu said that, when it comes to this matter, Shifu will hand over Tian Luonet and Hui Bao to Shifu before leaving Luotian spirit realm. We are already the top strength here, and we can't use them at all, Xuanxie said solemnly. Well, I can use all these things as a teacher. But now you need to make good use of it. Lao Shiwu will continue to use the Millennium Peach Tree Thunder Sword. You will continue to use Tian Luonet, and then find the most powerful son of Washinjing to use Hui Bao. With these 3 immortal weapons, 2 powerful array flag fields, and more than 1,000 monsters, you will have a great chance of winning against those Xinqiu. Yi Tian looked very far out of the gray sea of fog, pondering. In addition, those 5th level sea monsters, I'm going to take them away, and the 6th level sea monsters will be left to you. In particular, those 6th order sea monsters were forced to recognize the Lord when their state was low. When they reached their present state, they had been able to change their human form. Once they were free, they would not easily recognize the Lord again. And you also need to treat them as equals, make friends with them, help each other, and gradually control the demon cultivation in the Luocha Sea area through them, which is also a force that cannot be underestimated. I will obey the master's instructions. Xuanxie and Yunzhong bow at the same time. They have already begun to figure out how to carry out what Yi Tian said and make more friends with demon practitioners, which will help them in the future. Yi Tian has finished what he should say. At this time, the 6th step turtle came out of the sea, and the shadow came to Yi Tian. Yi Daoyu, just now I said what Yi Daoyu means to those of the same clan. Those of the 5-level clan are willing to follow Yi Daoyu. They just hope Yi Daoyu can treat them well and give them the shape pill. But those who have already changed the form of the same family, the form of Dan has lost its attraction to them. And they had been forbidden by the old white hair long ago, and they lost their freedom. In any case, they don't want to be controlled by others, but they promise that they can make a blood oath with Yi Daoyu. If they need help, they will do their best as long as they are free. With that, the 6th level turtle looked up at Yi Tian with some uneasiness. He didn't know what reaction he would have. Blood oath? Yi Tian repeated, eyebrows slightly wrinkled. It seems that some dissatisfied appearance, for a long time speechless. In fact, he was very happy in his heart. This state was the most ideal result he could think of. Once the monsters were transformed, they were familiar with human language, and they were more exposed to human culture. It can be said that it's the real demon cultivation. The thought of demon cultivation in this realm is very complicated, far more complicated than the monster without form. Moreover, they may pay more attention to the sense of dignity and freedom, which can't be completely controlled by a single soul brand. When the Terran friars are in a certain desperate situation, they will come to the idea of dying with the enemy step by step. If their own cultivation is not strong, and the spirit pet is strong and complex, they are easily attacked by the spirit pet. This is definitely a potential danger. In Yi Tian's present state, the spirit is so weak that even the 5th level monster can't recognize the Lord, let alone the 6th level monster. Even if he retreats 10,000 steps, he really recognizes the Lord. If he wants to do harm to Yi Tian, he can't defend himself. Yi Tian pretended to ponder for a moment in the 6th level turtle's uneasy waiting, and then said, well, since the tortoise has done his best, let's give tortoise a face and do as you say. Let those 5-level sea monsters let go of their mind, first erase their mind brand, and then recognize the Lord. Your lover is not within the scope of recognizing the Lord. She is free and can go anywhere with you. However, you should keep in touch with Xuanxie and Yunzhong, otherwise when he comes to refine washing pill for your lover, he will never find you again. After all, yes, time is limited. If we can't find your trace, we can't wait all the time. Thank you, Yi Daoyu. Hearing that Yi Tian finally agreed, and especially mentioning the washing pill, the 6th level turtle was very happy.
It was rare to learn the etiquette of a Terran friar and gave Yi Tian a hug. I will explain the situation to my family now. After the 6th level turtle left, Yi Tian said to Xuanxie and Yunzhong, you can go there too. The 6th level monsters swear by blood. All the 5th level monsters recognize their masters. I won't take part in it if you want to use it when you don't return to the sea. Xuanxie and Yunzhong nodded, turned away and went into the sea to do it. They know what Yi Tian means. In the future, the Yuns and Xians will continue to mingle in Luotian.
When they become masters, they will not interfere with the sea demon. More than 10 minutes later, Yunzhong came back from the sea and came to Yi Tian.
What's wrong?
After they left, Yi Tian was always floating in the same place, looking at the direction of the dark fog and thinking about the follow-up action. Suddenly, he saw Yunzhong come out and asked with a frown. In such a short period of time, it is impossible to finish all the 2 things he ordered. If there were no special circumstances, Yunzhong would not have come to find himself at this time. Yunzhong said respectfully, it's not a mistake, but there's one thing I want to report to my master.
Let's talk about something, about the sirens? Yi Tian looks at the sea and asks.
There was a strange expression on Yunzhong's face and he said, Master is wise.
It's about the sea demon.
One of the 6th level sea demons has not yet been transformed. Originally, the demon had already given up the idea of transforming the form. But after hearing the turtle say that Master can refine the form pill, the sea demon came to see his disciples, which shows that if Master can help him successfully transform the form, he is willing to make a blood oath. He worked for Xinyun family for 100 years. But the disciple didn't know if it was true that he said that he could refine the shape pill, so he didn't agree to it immediately.
He specially came to ask the master what to do with it. Yi Tian's eyes were fixed on Yunzhong.
After counting his breath, he suddenly laughed, pointed to Yunzhong and said, Lao Shiwu, you have a lot of heart and eyes.
Do you often hear master boast, and then feel that this matter is not sure, right?
Yunzhong laughed awkwardly. Shifu doesn't boast. He can only say that some of his words have reached the level of using falsehood to confuse truth. I believe in Shifu's ability, but I have to ask Shifu about it.
What does he mean?
You're so old, and you're so glib. Now that you're the head of the family, you need to build up your own dignity. You can do this in front of the master, but don't do it in front of others.
Now I'll give you an answer about refining washing pill.
I just want to find such an opportunity for the sea demons to see the magic effect of washing pill. Once the sea demon is successfully transformed, the transformation pill is the card in your hand, and the sea demon will deliberately make friends with you.
Which sea demon has reached the realm of deification, and there are no descendants? Yi Tianban said.
Yes. Yes. The master said it very well, and the disciple remembered it. The disciple also wanted to ask, is it true that the Huaxing Dan that the master said can only be kept for 3 days?
More than 3 days Yunzhong repeatedly promised, and then asked mysteriously. Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and asked, are you doubting master?
Seeing that Yunzhong's face was more embarrassed, Yi Tian said with a smile, in fact, this is a good question. To tell you the truth, pills can be kept for a long time, but they can't let the sea demon know.
Only in this way can they take the initiative. The key is to think about it for yourself.
As for the washing pill, besides refining one for the sea demon, I will also refine a few more for you in the old 14, the sea and land monsters. If you can attract as much as possible, you must attract them.
The situation of Luotian's spiritual realm must be opened. Even if there are more people from the Cloud family in Lansan Lingyu, it's worth it.
I understand. I know that I must have considered everything very carefully.
It's like the ambush of Xiandazong this time.
It seems that everything is under Master's control. This battle is really beautiful. All the children are very obedient to Master. Yunzhong said happily that when Xuanxie was not in front of him, he seemed to be a different person, and he was much younger.
Come on, don't flatter me in the future, and deal with it now. Yi Tian waved his gray hand and drove him away with a smile.
More than an hour later, the waves began to roll again. Xuanxie, Yunzhong and others came to the sky with 8 sixth-order sea monsters. In addition, the lover of the 6th order sea turtle also followed him. This is the only 5th order sea monster among all the sea animals who has not been recognized. Tian noticed that 7 of the 8 sea monsters had recovered to human form, and only one of them was still in the ontological state, that is, the sea monster with a lot of claws, like an octopus, had the size of a house and looked terrible. For Tian, a well-informed person, nothing will cause him to make a fuss. After a light look at those 6th-level sea monsters, Tian didn't even call them. He just asked Xuanxie, old 14, how are our monster casualties? 36 were killed and 53 wounded. After a period of recuperation, there should be no problem. Xuanxie said respectfully. Tian calmly placed ahead, the vision coldly swept those 6th-level sea monster, as if want to say what didn't say export. Those 6th-level sea monsters can't help but feel odd when they see Tian's appearance. Naturally, the sea monsters who died in the battle on Tian's side also have their credit. Basically, the monsters on Tian's side all intercept the sea monsters. More than 30 monsters died, which is not much. After all, more than 100 sea monsters died, far more than the number of Tian. But those sea demons seem to read his discontent from Tian's eyes, and they are all worried. Just when the sea monsters were worried and wondering whether Tian would be angry with them because of the death of those monsters, Xuanxie and Yunzhong opened their mouths almost at the same time. Master. Tian glanced at them expressionless, and spit out a word, say. Xuanxie and Yunzhong looked at each other, and then Yunzhong took the lead in saying, Master, since those monsters have died in the war, please forgive me. These Taoist friends of the High Clan are also careless. Please forgive me. They did it under the command of Sima Changkong, the leader of the Immortal sect. It's not their original intention. Now these Taoist friends of the High Clan have made a blood pledge. They have been watching and helping each other with their disciples. They are really a family. Cloud Zhong finished saying, Leaf Day non-committal ground looked to Xian Crack, old 14, how do you say? Master, the meaning of the disciples is the same as that of Lao Shiwu. They just have no intention to make mistakes, so I'd better ask for a favor for them, and don't attack them anymore. Finish saying, Xian Crack and Cloud Zhong at the same time bend down to go, to the Leaf Day long ceremony can't rise. Tian glanced at the sea monsters again, and then sighed, well, this is the first thing. I must bury those monsters. As a teacher, I have been with them for a long time. It's hard to give up. Let's go. The living environment of those sea monsters is that the strong are respected. They speak with strength. They don't know much about the world. They can't guess the twists and turns in Tian's stomach. Seeing such a situation, they can't help but cast a grateful glance at Xuanxie and Yunzhong. Especially the 6th-level sea demon who hasn't been transformed into a shape successfully, his heart is full of ups and downs. It seems that Tian is not a good talker. Yunzhong can ask for a shape-transforming pill for himself. He doesn't know how many good words to say and how many smiling faces to accompany him. If he is not good enough to repay Yunzhong, he is not close to the beast. Let's go. After Tian finished his performance, he let out Dun Tiansua and flew to the direction of Xiandazong. Xuanxie and Yunzhong, with their own family children, and the 9 monsters, followed behind, but they didn't escape quickly. It was the first time that the sea demons saw such a magic weapon as Dun Tiansua. They could not help but be surprised. They felt more unfathomable about Tian. In particular, Tian called Xuanxie old 14 and Yunzhong old 15. The sea demons surmised that these 2 spiritual monks could only rank 14 or 15 among Tian's disciples, then those disciples who were the first to enter the class must be more powerful than the 2 of them. It seems that these Terran friars can't easily annoy them. In the surmise of many sea monsters, a group of people and animals quickly fled. After a short time, they finally saw a vast island in the distance. That is the nameless island where Xiandazong is located. Go ahead and have some discretion. Tianxiao and Yunzhong nodded and said. Xuanxie and Yunzhong nodded, waved their hands, and then speeded up their escape speed, and flew away like a meteor. After him, the children of the Xuanjie and Yunjia families, and 8 6th-order sea monsters also accelerated to speed, and followed Xuanxie and Yunzhong. The only one who fell behind was the slowest female turtle. Look at the other sea monsters have gone far, its body flash, ahead into the sea, in the sea to inexplicable fly away.
Yi Tian ignores the turtle and drives Dun Tiansuo forward.
At the same time, he lets go of his mind and observes the situation on the nameless island. Then he sees that no one notices him.
Then he plunges into the sea. After a while, he flies back to the sky and continues to drive towards Xiandazong.
Xuanxie and Yunzhong were discovered by the people of Xiandazong earlier, but no one realized the danger.
The disciples of Xiandazong were still busy with their own affairs. Surround Xiandazong.
When he was just near the periphery of Xiandazong, Xuanxie let out the demons in the spirit beast ring. So did Yunzhong, who separated the sea demons from the original demons.
More than 1,000 monsters, together with more than 50 children of the two families, rushed into the Immortal sect in a flash. Bold, where is Xiandao sect? You dare to break into our sect and retreat quickly. Let's leave this matter. Otherwise, I will teach you that you will never come back.
As soon as the party appeared, dozens of Dunguang flew out of the Immortal sect and stopped in front of Shin Crack and others.
Xuanxie didn't pay attention to these people. He stayed in the air for a while, let go of his voice and said in a loud voice, "Listen to the disciples of Xiandazong, everyone will be arrested. Xuanmo will never kill innocent people indiscriminately, otherwise the resistor will die. I'm not ashamed. Except for the ancestors and the masters of our clan, you dare to go to the nameless island to have a wild life. I also want to say that those who come here should go back quickly, or they will be killed." At that time, a monk of Yuanyingjing didn't pay any attention to Xuancha's words, but said with a loud drink, "Discard your accomplishments first." Shin Crack cold voice says, "Didn't wait for the monk of Shin family and Cloud family to start, a crab demon with these two small pincers on the head behind him has already flashed out." The other 7 sixth-order sea monsters did not neglect at all. They followed the crab demon and rushed into the group of monks of Xiandazong. Seeing these people really dare to fight, the people of Xiandazong's face changed, and they broke down one after another. The crab demon didn't move at all slowly. He just flashed. He had already caught the monk of Yuanyingjing who had answered before and hit him on his dantian with a fist. The fist was very powerful. The whole fist was directly inserted into the man's dantian, and then grabbed the man's Yuan baby. Then the palm of his hand closed, and he crushed Yuan baby. "My Yuan baby." The monk's face was pale. He just breathed out in pain and fainted. At this time, more than 1,000 other monsters rushed into the nameless island, crossed the Xiandazong, and then scattered around, surrounded the whole Xiandazong. "Listen, all the disciples of Xiandazong come out and gather quickly. The Patriarch and the Patriarch Sima Changkong have been captured. If they don't obey the orders, they will bear the consequences." Everyone didn't start immediately, and many monsters didn't open the killing ring under the constraints of Xuanxie and Yunzhong. Only the Shin Crack body is in the high altitude, far sent out the sound. "What have you done to the ancestors and the patriarchs? I want to see the Lord." At this time, a monk of the Immortal sect of Taoism rushed out of the closed door and flew to the side of Xinsha. Xuanxie once searched the soul of the Yuanyingjing disciple named Lin Feng. Naturally, he recognized this person as Deng Yibiao. He was a new monk of Washinjing, and his realm was not stable. In the ordinary days, he devoted himself to cultivation, but didn't find many bad deeds. Some things that can't be seen in Xiandazong are all done by the Patriarch Sima Changkong and the monks of the sect. However, Shin Crack's voice was still cold, and he said, "Deng Yibiao, gather on the ground, and you will naturally see Sima Changkong. If anyone dares to take off without permission, it will be treated as a revolt, and there will be no amnesty for killing him. I hope you don't kill without permission. If you have any problems, you can solve them." Deng Yibiao confessed and obediently fell to the ground. At this time, Yi Tian's Dun Tiansuo had turned into a dunlight, and reached the sky of Xiandazong. At the bottom, there are 7,000 Xiandazong disciples gathered, and some of the injured people who have ever seen in the spirit realm are also among them. Yi Tian's magic power hits Dun Tiansuo, and then he gains Zumaji, and his figure falls on a high temple, and says to Xuanxie, "Start to interrogate." "Yes, master."
Shen Krak agreed to fall to the ground, and no matter what reaction those disciples of Xiandazong had, he motioned, and the already frustrated ancestor of Xiandazong was taken out of the spirit beast ring by him.
At this time, Shangguan Yunhong's face was full of wrinkles. He seemed to be much thinner than before. He had no magic power all over his body. He seemed to be an old man with no cultivation. The sudden strong light stimulated his eyes. He slowly covered the sun with his hands, narrowed his eyes and looked at the surrounding environment. When he saw the environment that he could not be more familiar with, and the disciples of Xiandazong, the ancestor Shangguan Yunhong suddenly twitched his cheek and coughed violently.
Lao Zu. Seeing that the ancestors of Xiandazong, who had died in the past, had become what they are now, some monks of Xiandazong could not help kneeling down.
What are you doing? Do you want to destroy our immortal sect? Shangguan Yunhong coughed a few times and then looked at Xuanxie and others.
His voice said weakly.
Well, even if you kill the immortal sect, it's just a matter of moving your fingers.
As for how to deal with the disciples of Xiandazong, it depends on what they have done and what you high-level people of Xiandazong have done. Xuanxie didn't have a good impression on the ancestor who always tried to kill the monk of the Xuanjia family.
He didn't have the slightest sympathy for his embarrassment at this time. He just said it coldly.
All things are advocated by me and have nothing to do with ordinary disciples.
Shangguan Yunhong said weakly.
The Shen Krak steps to the front of the old ancestors Shangguan Yunhong, cold voice Wei, I come to ask you, why must I be equal to death?
Nothing but
for the sake of the clan's interests.
With you, Xiandazong will be threatened. Therefore, here I am.
You must die.
Knowing that his time was running out, Shangguan Yunhong didn't have any fear. He even told his true thoughts intermittently.
So you tell us false news, put us in a dangerous situation, and try every means to find opportunities to attack us?
The sound of the dark crack is colder. Yes, I just can't imagine that you have made Shouyuan several times in a row. Was my Shouyuan lost a lot by Tian? Did my secret skill damage Shouyuan? The ancestor Shangguan Yunhong, talking, raised his head difficultly and looked at Tian above the hall.
Tian's figure moved, but he didn't see how to do it.
The next moment, he appeared beside Shangguan Yunhong. Yes, if you didn't cheat you by Daoyu, you would not give you false skills. If you can live in peace, there is no animosity between Xiandazong and Xuanjia. Yi knows no less than 100 ways to increase your life.
Any one of them can increase your life by tens of years, or even hundreds of years.
You still have a lot of opportunities. It's a pity that you killed us from the beginning.
You are not to blame for your death, it's all my fault.
Kill me.
At this time, Shangguan Yunhong, who was unable to commit suicide, looked at Tian with hatred, and then closed his eyes.
Death is certain, but before you die, you should make a little contribution to Xiandazong. I want to take your memory. If there are good people in Xiandazong, I will not kill them indiscriminately. Seeing that Tian turned away from Shangguan Yunhong, Xuanxie took the conversation again. He held it in his hand and pressed it on the head of the ancestor of Xiandazong.
Many monks of Xiandazong immediately got into a commotion. In front of so many disciples of Xiandazong, searching the soul of Lao Zu was like beating the whole Xiandazong in the face. Don't be impatient for a while, just fight against the hatred between Xuanjia and Yunjia and Xiandazong.
Even if you destroy Xiandazong, it's not a coincidence. This is the benevolence of the Xian family and the Yun family.
They give you a chance not to die.
If someone is anxious to die, they can stand up now.
Yunzhong heard the sound of the commotion, and his eyes flashed. This sound really worked, and the commotion became small. However, some disciples' eyes were full of hatred. They looked at Tian, Xuanxie, and Yunzhong.
Lao Zu. There was a whisper in the crowd. At the time of soul searching, while searching for the memory, Xuanxie quietly injected the mana into Shangguan Yunhong's body to keep his vitality.
But at this time, Shangguan Yunhong's face was ugly, and his body was shaking slightly, as if a candle flickering in the wind might go out at any time.
As pitiful as it is.
Please call your ancestors, maybe next moment, you will not be able to call out.
Xuanxie and the soul-searching suddenly said a word, then his eyes swept the collapsed Shangguan Yunhong coldly, and said slowly, Shangguan Yunhong, in order to seize the position of the elder, killed his brother Liang Zhengdao and took his daughter Liang Kor as his Taoist partner. Nonsense. Nonsense. Hearing such a sentence from Xuanxie, Shangguan Yunhong was trembling and angry. However, Xuanxie laughed, I'm from Lantsan Lingyu. Before I came here, I didn't even know what Xiandazong was. How could I know Liang Zhengdao and Liang Kor? You disciples of Xiandazong should have this ability of discrimination? With that, Xuanxie continued with his words like an endorsement. Shangguan Yunhong killed his nephew Zheng Xiaoyuan in order to support his disciple Yekihua to ascend to the position of patriarch. As soon as this remark came out, it immediately caused a great disturbance among the disciples of Xiandazong. Many people's faces changed and they were extremely shocked. It was obvious that Liang Kor would come. More people knew about Yekihua and Zhang Xiaoyuan. How can it be? How could Lao Zhu have done such a thing? Someone is whispering to himself. Hearing this, Shen Crack's eyes shot in the past. Don't worry, everyone. After I search my soul, any of you can come to search it and see what your ancestors have done? He has no cultivation and weak soul power. Anyone who doesn't believe him can see who he is. Come on, now, too. Xuanxie's eyes swept the people of Xiandazong, but they were more and more aggressive. But no one really used to search for the soul of their ancestors. On the contrary, many people really believe in the theory of Xiancrack. Kill me. The old ancestor, Shangguan Yunhong, cried in a trembling voice. What? Scared? Are you afraid that the disciples of our sect will search your soul? Don't worry, Xuanmo won't let you die like this. There are so many things you have done. Even Xuanmo is shocked. Is that what people do? How many nuns did you say you had? How many disciples did you kill? Xuanxie didn't mention his name. He just asked him one by one. Shangguan Yunhong's breath became more and more dispirited. Later, he was so calm that he didn't answer his questions, didn't look at him, and didn't look at any of his disciples. With the continuous development of Sowu, Xuanxie burst out a sneer from time to time. It wasn't until more than an hour later that Xuanxie said again, finally, there is living evidence. Jia Weiyan, this disciple should be known to all. Disciples of Xiandazong, go to the place where your ancestors shut up and bring her here. Ji Shimai. Ji Shimai. Xuanxie just said this. A disciple of the Immortal sect in Jindanjing suddenly went crazy and shot at a hall. Xuanxie and Yunzhong didn't stop him. Anyway, Xiandazong had been set up like a net. No one could escape. Xuanxie didn't care what they were doing in the encirclement. As soon as the Xiandazong disciple left, all the Xiandazong disciples looked at each other. No one made a comment, but they exchanged their eyes constantly. As if there is no need for language, just eyes can say everything. Up to now, more than half of the people believe what Xianxia said. The nun named Jia Huayun is a female disciple of Xiandazong. She is not only gifted, but also beautiful. Unfortunately, she disappeared 3 years ago for some reason, and so far there is no news. If it's not true, how can the secret crack be said, and how can the disciples of Xiandazong go to see the truth for themselves? Qin Che, the monk of Jindanjing who was crazy to find out the truth, is Jia Huayun's elder martial brother. They are in love with each other and have long been in love with each other. However, because of Jia Huayun's disappearance, the matter is over. Qin Che is heartbroken because of this. In recent years, he has been looking for his younger martial sister Jia Huayun everywhere. This time, he has just returned to the sect. After this person left, Xuanxie didn't say a word, just continued to search the soul of Shangguan Yunhong, and input mana to ensure that he could support. When he was about a pillar of incense, the figure in the distance flashed, and Qin Che, who had left before, flew back like crazy again. Instead of returning to the disciples of Xiandazong, he went straight to the ancestor Shangguan Yunhong, but in his mouth he yelled, Shangguan Yunhong, you are a brute, you are the ancestor in vain, you are not as good as animals. He cursed in his mouth. He wanted to rush up and beat Shangguan Yunhong, but Xianjun put out his arm to stop him.
In the face of a monk, Qin Shi had no chance to get close to Shangguan Yunhong. However, he kept cursing and cursing, but suddenly squatted on the ground and sobbed. That was really heartbreaking. Such a scene made the disciples of Xiandazan look at each other. Those disciples of Xiandazan don't know what happened to Jie Huayun, but they all know what happened to that amazing little younger martial sister. Many people's faces became extremely ugly, and even some of the disciples who had special respect for their ancestors began to show disdain. Well, don't cry. When I finish searching my soul, Shangguan Yunhong will give it to you to deal with. Shen Crack swept one eye. Qin Shi, the temperature voice says. Thank you, master. Thank you very much. Qin Shi immediately knelt down in front of Shen Crack, kowed out and said. Then he got up and flew to the hall like crazy again. Master, we must let the younger generation blade the beast, let the younger generation be a cow and a horse in return. Man has disappeared in the temple, his voice is still far away. Old 15, search Sima Changkong. See Shangguan Yunhong's person set has been destroyed, scandal opened, his reputation has stink home. Tian then whispered a word to Yunzhong. On the way, Yunzhong has already transferred Sima Changkong to his Shumi commandment. At this time, he hears Tian's command. He comes not far from Xuanxie. With a gesture, he releases Sima Changkong, who has been abandoned for cultivation. The appearance of Sima Changkong caused much more disturbance than that of Shangguan Yunhong. Before searching for the soul, Yunzhong looks at Xuanxie, but he nods to him. Yunzhong immediately has the courage to know that Xuanxie has found the bad deeds of Sima Chang from Shangguan Yunhong, but he doesn't say it. He glanced coldly. The disciples of Xiandazan, who were making comments, said coldly, don't worry. Later, I will let you know your master Sima again. With these words, his palm had been pressed on the top of Sima Changkong's head. Sima Changkong's physical quality is much better than that of Shangguan Yunhong. When Yunzhong's palm is pressed on his head, Sima Changkong still wants to struggle, but a monk who has been dismissed from cultivation doesn't have to be much better than ordinary people. There is no room for him to struggle in front of Yunzhong. When the soul search continued, his face became more and more ugly. Haha, this Sima Changkong is even better than his ancestors. Come on, you disciples of Xiandazan. What did your master do? While searching for the soul, Yunzhong said. In order to improve the realm of cultivation, Sima Changkong, the patriarch of Xiandao, once brought back a nun from other places to worship under the door of Xiandao. This nun is the body of the cauldron. He used it for many years, and then dedicated it to his ancestor, Shangguan Yunhong. With the support of later Shangguan Yunhong, he became the patriarch. The nun should still be in the crowd now. I won't say more about who she is. Although he said that, his eyes began to scan the crowd. Suddenly, at different positions in the crowd, almost at the same time, two nuns left the crowd and flew away. When they were in the air, they found each other's situation at this time. Their bodies stopped slightly, then they hid their faces and went away. In order to improve the realm of cultivation, Sima Changkong, the patriarch of Xiandao, once brought back a nun from other places to worship under the door of Xiandao sect. This nun is the body of the cauldron. He used it for many years, and then dedicated it to his ancestor, Shangguan Yunhong. Later, he got the support of Shangguan Yunhong and became the patriarch. The nun should still be in the crowd now. No, both of them have left. Cloud Zhong swept one eye to go toward two back figures of different direction, continue to say. The two nuns wanted to leave Xiandazan, but they were stopped in front of the encirclement. Let them go. Yi Tian's body was on the main hall, and he spread his voice far away. The two defending monks of Xuanjia and Yunjia heard Yi Tian's voice. They immediately restrained the monster, made way for a gap, and let the two nuns go. Yunzhong sighed and seemed to say to himself, although there are similar things, I won't tell them. It will influence people's life in the future. At this time, Sima Changkong didn't have any discrimination. He lowered his head and couldn't see everything around him. In fact, as a person who has been deprived of cultivation, his heart has already died. Even if he can survive, he is just a walking corpse. Forget it, old 15. Don't say anything about Master Sima.
Just search for your soul. Our goal is to punish the evil and promote the good. We will not let a bad person go, and we will not wrongly a good person. There is no need to uncover the only fig leaf of Xiandazong. Yi Tian glanced at the silent Immortal sect disciples and said so. Yes, according to Master's instructions. Yunzhong promised, and he didn't say a word more. He quietly searched the soul of Sima Changkong. But he was very clear in his heart. In fact, it was no matter whether he said it or not. Even if he didn't say it, it would give the disciples of Xiandazong endless imagination and arbitrary speculation. Up to now, Master's plan of killing the heart along the way has been successful. The reputation of Xiandazong was completely rotten. From the ancestor to the patriarch, they all became shameless people. The disciples of Xiandazong will no longer feel proud of being in such a sect. The affairs of Xiandazong will become the conversation of all forces and friars in the whole spiritual realm of Luotian after tea. Even if Xiandazong was disbanded today, there would not be any disciples of Xiandazong who would take revenge for their ancestors and their masters under the banner of awe-inspiring righteousness. They would even be ashamed to let people know that they were once disciples of Xiandazong. And no one will feel that the dissolution of Xiandazong, the Xians and Yuns from Lansan Lingyu have gone too far. Without fighting, Xiandazong, the first leader of Luotian Lingjiu who founded for a long time, was completely finished. Not only Yunzhong knew it, but also the disciples of Xiandazong knew it very well. What were the things that Yunzhong didn't say? They don't know. But as a nun, I can't help shivering. There are many vigilants in the heart of the male practitioners of this sect. Many people don't know that the so-called number one in the world is such an ugly face. People's hearts are cold and scattered. The brand of Xiandazong has not been taken off, but it has already died in the hearts of all the disciples. The soul searching is still going on. Whether it's the ancestor Shangguan Yunhong or the patriarch Sima Changkong, both of them are monks who have lived for countless years. They can't search all of them in a moment and a half because of their memory and information. Xuanxie and Yunzhong are both going to open up their own power and land cards in Luotian Lingyu. All the information related to Luotian Lingyu is very important, and the source of the information is Xiandazong. One is the ancestor, and the other is the leader. After searching their souls, Xuanxie and Yunzhong exchange information with each other, so they don't know how to do it in the future. Time passed bit by bit in the soul searching, until 4 or 5 hours later, they stopped one after another. Master, can you give this old thief to me? As soon as Xuanxie stops, Qin Che, who doesn't know when to return to the crowd, immediately comes over and kneels down for Xuanxie. All right. The affairs of Xiandazong should be solved by Xiandazong himself. Xuanxie nodded slightly and walked to one side. Beast. Evil thief. Qin Che's eyes were full of hatred and anger. He came up to beat the Shangguan Yunhong. Fighting, Qin Che suddenly stopped, but it turned out that Shangguan Yunhong didn't know when his soul had gone to hell, so he said goodbye to the world. Thank you for your kindness. Could you please let me and younger martial sister Jia leave again? Then, Qin Che came to the Xian crackbody and bowed deeply. Xuanxie just wanted to ask for Yi Tian's advice, but in his ear came Yi Tian's voice, "Old 14, now you can be a teacher." There is no such thing as a teacher. Here, you and the old should establish your own authority. Hearing Yi Tian's words, Xian Xie's heart became stable and said to Qin Che, "You can leave as much as you can. If you need any help in the future, you can come to me at any time." Qin Che left with gratitude. When it was time to deal with Sima Changkong, no one expected that a dignified nun came out of the group of disciples of Xian Jin sect. As soon as she stood up, she immediately attracted the eyes of many people. Some even opened their mouths, showing an incredible look. "Master, let me take charge of Sima Changkong's life." The nun was quite dignified. Her face was frosty and expressionless. She turned a blind eye to the eyes of the people around her. She jumped in the air and flew towards Yunzhong like a fairy. As soon as she landed, she said politely to Yunzhong. After reaching for a sign, Yunzhong stepped back. The nun stared at Sima Changkong and counted his breath. She didn't say a word. A shining sword appeared in her hand. A cold light passed by. Sima Kong's head flew away and fell to the open space far away.
The nun killed Sima Changkong, but no one looked at her. Her figure moved and flew straight to the encirclement.
Yunzhong waved his hand to let go.
When the gap of the encirclement was opened, the nun flew out of the gap like no one else, and soon disappeared in the sight of everyone.
Yunzhong took back his eyes, looked at the group of regretful disciples of Xiandazong, and said in a loud voice, "Next, all the disciples whose names I have read come forward, either abolish their cultivation or be killed by me, either." As soon as this remark came out, the people who were still talking about it immediately calmed down, and even some people's expressions began to panic. Yunzhong didn't care about the reaction of the crowd. He called out his names, Han Shufeng, Bu Gang, Tu Shaoxi, Hua Xuanwu. One name after another, until he called out 23 names in a row. Yunzhong stopped. However, none of the 23 people he called out stood up. Yunzhong looked at the crowd with bright eyes, sweeping from one side to the other. Even sometimes, his eyes were still on the faces of some disciples for a moment, until he saw them all over again. He said in a deep voice again, "If you don't stand up again within 3 breaths, I will do it. I'm Tu Shaoxi. I'll abandon my cultivation, and then I'll ask the elder to be kind and send us back to the land." As soon as Yunzhong's voice fell, one of the people flew out of the crowd. He turned out to be a wounded monk in the spirit realm. Yunzhong naturally knows that this man once tried to kill himself in the Luocha Sea with his ancestors, Shangwan Yunhong and Sima Changkong. From Sima Changkong's memory, he knows his many evil deeds. Tu Shaoxi fell to the ground and looked up at Qing Tian. Then he made a gesture and clapped his hand on his own dantian. Then there was blood on his lips and he fell to the ground in pain. "Kill him." Yunzhong just wants to say something, but Yi Tian on the main hall suddenly says. Hearing Yi Tian's voice, Tu Shaoxi's figure leaps up and wants to set up Dun Guang to escape from here. Yunzhong is a flying sword that leaves his body and cuts him down in the air. The power of the sword cuts him in two. At the same time, Yunzhong's hand formula changed again and again. A half-immortal soldier's flying sword circled slightly in the air and turned into many sword flowers, chopping Yuaning out of this person to pieces. Needless to say, everyone who is not blind can see that Tu Shaoxi is trying to do something about his self-abolishing cultivation, and is ready to hide from the world and escape from the disaster. However, such behavior is not easy to fool. After killing this man, Yunzhong moves his hand, calls back the flying sword, turns his body slightly, and looks at the disciples of the Immortal sect again. At that moment, several figures gave their names and fell to the open space in front of them. With these people taking the lead, someone came out of the crowd again. Until the last one came, it was just 22, not many, not many. These 22 people are among the names that Yunzhong read. Yun won't announce your evil deeds. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll be skinned to light the sky lamp. Cloud Zhong swept the 22 people one eye, sink a voice to say. I've abandoned my cultivation. One of them, Yuan Yingjing monk, took the lead and took the same shot on the dantian. He was shaken back several steps by his own palm. Then he added another palm, and his body was suddenly paralyzed. 5 of the other 21 were monks of the spirit-transforming realm. At this time, they also raised their palms to see that their posture was just to take pictures of their own dantian. Unexpectedly, there were only 4 monks who really fell on the elixir's field. The other one's body suddenly flashed when his palm was about to fall, and shot at Yi Tian on the main hall in a flash. Yi Tianling snorts. The 2 pairs of heavenly wings behind him appear in a flash. With a light fan, the figure disappears out of thin air, and then appears dozens of feet away. At this time, the Tianluo net in Xuanxia's hand had already been put out. A white light covered the monk and turned him into a big net with crystal clear net, which trapped him firmly in the net. At this time, Xuanxia's body moved. He had already grasped Tianluo net, clapped his palm hard, and the magic power penetrated into the monk's elixir field. The friar snorted, and his whole body twitched, and his breath instantly withered. Xuanxia's palm is very fierce. It has directly broken the person's yuanying, and caused a lot of injuries to his viscera. Master, you are shocked. Xuanxia hugs Yi Tian in a hurry. Yunzhong is also tight in his heart and bows to Yi Tian. After all,
he presided over the previous scene, but he didn't guard against someone taking the opportunity to attack Yi Tian suddenly.
Soul searching. Yi Tian waved his hand, indicating that Xuanxie and Yunzhong didn't mind too much, and then drank. With a gesture, the Tian Luo net turned into a white light and flew back. Then the rope tied to the monk turned into a white light and entered the white ball in his hand.
Yunzhong grabbed the monk and pressed his palm on his head.
Puff, puff, puff.
When Yunzhong was searching for his soul, the monks who stood up did not dare to delay anymore except those who had already abandoned their cultivation.
They clapped their palms at the Dantian.
There was even the same situation as the previous friars. They were afraid that the cultivation was not thorough enough, but they were killed. At this time of chaos, a red light in the monk's body, who was searched by Yunzhong, flew into the sky and was about to flee to the distance.
Blood Evil King's soul!
Yunzhong exclaimed, and the 1,000-year-old peach tree thunder sword appeared in his hand. Then a thunder cleaved to the red shadow. The speed of the red shadow was appalling, and he escaped the pursuit of thunder. Go at this time, the white light in Xuanxia's hand flashed again, and Tian Luo net shot for the second time. No matter how fast the red shadow was, it couldn't be faster than Tian Luo net in Xuanxia's hand. A flash of white light is caught up with the red shadow, but who knows, although Tian Luo net covers the red shadow, it is pierced by the red shadow and continues to fly away.
When Red Shadow was about to reach the encirclement, she suddenly raised her height, bypassed the encirclement, and then left the encirclement in a flash. If it's the same as the teacher's guess, Tian Luo net can't hold the soul of the Blood Evil King. After all, it's the soul body.
Yi Tian said with a smile to the angry Xiancrack. The speed of the red shadow is too fast. Xuanxia knows that he can't catch up with him with his own speed.
He can't help feeling ashamed.
He and Yunzhong lose face in front of Yi Tian this time. It is he sees the bearing that Leaf Day talks and laughs, in the heart can't help but greatly admire.
He just got the red shadow and stopped in the air.
Xiancrack in induction, then understand how to return a responsibility, why Leaf Day arrived at this time can still smile a voice. It turns out that the soul of the Blood Evil King is surrounded by the field shield of the 8-pole array. Now, both the soul body and the entity are unable to break out of the powerful field shield for the time being.
Go and have a look.
At this time, Yi Tian said and flew straight to the field shield.
Xuanxie and Yunzhong leave 2 children waiting here. They follow Yi Tian and fly away to the distance.
Master, this Blood Ghost King soul should have been transformed by a monk of Xianming sect.
After catching up with Yi Tian, Xiancrack asks away.
You can know from the soul searching of the elder of Xianming sect that all the 6 elders have been killed.
It's the soul you personally searched. It should be good.
All the monks who escaped from Xianming sect have entered the sea of no return. If the spirit of the Blood Ghost King is good, it should be the leader of the Xianming sect who was poisoned by the corpse and killed by the corpse devil insect.
Yi Tian looked at the direction of the shield and said.
Master's guess is a little strange, but it should not be wrong. Xianming sect is really strange.
The elder and the leader are the souls of blood evil.
There was a look of surprise on Xuanxia's face. As he spoke, the 3 of them had come to the transparent field. At this time, the red shadow has been quiet after a burst of fruitless collision with the shield, and it is floating in the field, emitting a slightly flashing red light.
Let me out, or you'll come in.
All of a sudden, the Red Blood King's soul began to shout. The master of Xianming sect, Gen Bronze. The 3 stopped for a moment outside the transparent shield, and Xuanxia suddenly cried out. He searched the soul of the elder of Xianming sect. Although he didn't find that the leader of Xianming sect was actually a king of blood evil with intelligence, the name of the leader was known for a long time.
Ha ha ha. I didn't expect you to know my identity. It's not easy. But what can you do for me? I'm a field master. Although the field shield of the 8-pole array can trap me, it's not killing the array. Can you still trap me forever? Weinhun, the red blood ghost, admitted his identity without any taboo, and his attitude was very arrogant.
It's true that you can recognize the octopolar array field, but that doesn't mean you are safe.
Yi has many ways to kill you.
Yi Tianling snorts and raises his hand slowly.
I'll wait and see. I don't believe you can run this field forever. I can afford it. Do you think I'm an ordinary blood ghost? Do you think it will become weaker and weaker in the external environment? The blood evil spirit of the Xianming sect leader was as arrogant as ever.
It's time to witness the miracle.
Let's see how you died.
Yi Tian said it in his mouth, and said a few words to Xuanxie and Yunzhong. Then he flew back slowly. When he was more than 10 feet away, the palm that he had already raised fell slowly. Just as his palm fell, a bigger field shield suddenly appeared, which not only trapped the field shield of the 8-pole array, but also put Xuanxie and Yunzhong in the new shield. It seems that Xuanxie and Yunzhong knew this situation early. They didn't look at each other. They just looked at each other and took action. Yunzhong's gesture moved, and the Millennium Peachtree Thunder Sword, which is specially used to restrain the soul body, appeared in his hand. With Xuanxie's fingers pinching and his mind sweeping, 16 thunder insects appeared out of thin air, flapping their wings and floating in the shield, making a buzzing sound of wing vibration. Then, Xuanxie moves again. At the moment when his palm fell, a black, house-sized stone fell into the shield. It was the Xianyang stone that had been kept by Xuanxie.
What are you doing? You think you can?
The soul of the Red Blood Devil King didn't know Xianyang stone. Naturally, he couldn't know the power of Xianyang stone. Although the thunder from the 1,000-year-old Peachtree Thunder Sword in Yunzhong's hand was powerful, he saw that there was a strong field shield between them. It didn't seem that he could hurt himself. When he was making sarcastic remarks, he was surprised to find that the field shield between the two suddenly flickered a few times and then disappeared out of thin air.
He couldn't help but swallow his words in amazement.
He quickly glanced at them, only to find that the outer field shield was still there.
Then he wanted to attack Xuanxie and Yunzhong with a flash of red light. But Yunzhong and Xianxia didn't give him the chance to fight back.
They started almost at the same time. Yunzhong tried his best to urge the Millennium Peachtree Thunder Sword in his hand.
A terrible thunder was sent out at any time. There was no attack time.
In a moment, it fell on the bloody ghost of the king.
Ka!
With a loud noise, the blood-evil spirit of the Xianming Patriarch suddenly flashed red, and immediately shrank by a circle under the thunder.
Kaka kaka.
The 16 thunder insects manipulated by the mysterious crack almost attacked at the same time, and the 16 lightning bolts connected to form a power grid, straight to the soul of the blood-evil king. The blood-evil spirit of the king gave a strange roar, and he had to use his proud speed to dodge. However, as soon as he moved, he found that there was a very strong gravity field around him. Under the strong gravity, his originally extremely light action was like slow action, which was astringent and delayed a lot. All his actions were greatly hindered and became extremely heavy and clumsy.
Kaka kaka.
His action was affected, but the power of thunder was not bound by the gravity field, and the lightning fell on the soul of blood-evil king. The red blood-evil spirit of the king is shrinking, and has been reduced by half in the blink of an eye.
Ah!
Sensing the situation, the blood ghost king uttered a cry of panic, and then said aloud, "Stop, it's easy to discuss."
What a fart!
Yunzhong yelled, and another thunder roared down, and the powerful force of the thunder hit the soul of the bloody ghost king again, making the red bloody ghost smaller again. The 16 Leisure insects, whistling excitedly, devoured the mysterious white gas emitted by the Millennium Leisure sword without fear, bombarded with the power of thunder, and continuously hit the blood ghost king's soul transformed by the Xianming Patriarch. However, the time of more than 10 breaths has been reduced to a very small one. After the soul of the blood ghost king uttered a cry of panic, under the bombardment of many thunders, the remnant of the soul of the blood ghost king exploded with a bang. It turned into a small red light point that needed to be scattered all around.
Then it came out of ice and snow and met the spring breeze. It quickly disappeared and disappeared.
It was supposed to be a thrilling and dangerous war, and it ended cleanly under the powerful thunder. Until the soul of the king of blood evil was killed and disappeared from the original place, the 16 Leisure insects still launched the thunder force towards the place where the soul of the king of blood evil disappeared. They didn't stop until they saw that Yunzhong didn't push the 1,000-year-old Taomu Leishu sword anymore. Their figure flashed and flew to Yunzhong's side, chirping incessantly. Looking at the scene not far away,
Yi Tian's face showed a color of meditation, then shook his head and laughed, and waved his hand in the air. With a schwa, the field shield of Suatan formation disappeared in an instant. Yunzhong put away the 1,000-year-old peach tree thunder sword, and Xuanxie took back Shenyang stone and 16 thunder insects, and returned to Yi Tian's side. Master, I can't believe that you have reserved a backhand outside. Fortunately, these two fields exist, otherwise you will be run away by the master of Xianming sect. Shen crack full face admires ground to spread a sound way to the leaf sky. Therefore, everything should be considered carefully. There must be no lack of planning. If you don't think about winning, you must think about losing. Only in this way can you not be caught unprepared, and you won't lose when you lose. Yi Tian at the same time to two people. After hearing this, Xuanxie and Yunzhong tasted it carefully. Then they bowed and said, Master's teachings are in my heart. I will live up to Master's expectations. Yi Tian nodded with a smile and asked, how is the matter of Xiandazong going to end? Xuanxie and Yunzhong looked at each other, but Xuanxie took the lead in saying, Master, from soul searching, we know that ordinary disciples of Xiandao sect practice in Nameless Island all the year round, and they don't have many opportunities to go out. Many of them are good kids with good talent, but they just enter Xiandao sect by mistake. If Master doesn't object, I'm going to choose some to keep. That's what disciples mean. There aren't many members of the Cloud family. It's difficult to support the structure of Lanzong Lingyu and Luotian. People are needed here. Yunzhong later also used the technique of sound transmission. Yi Tian nodded his head and continued to preach. After observing the disciples of Xiandao sect before, it is true that they are pure in nature, able to distinguish right from wrong, and have good thoughts. As a teacher, I have an idea. Since then, you two have established branches here. Mingli should not use the name of Xuanjia and Yunjia, but should establish a clan. This will be more inclusive, reduce the resistance and exclusivity of local monks to your two families, and make it easier to absorb the good seedlings of the spirit realm of Luo Tian. As for the disciples of Xiandazong, you can solicit them, but never force them to join you willingly. Moreover, I don't recommend that you recruit them at the first time. You should give them a certain amount of time to see what you have done. Take your time. Don't let people think that you killed Xiandazong for the sake of Xiandazong's disciples. Don't let Xiandazong's disciples think that they are the original members of the Cloud family and the Xian family. Let them think that joining them in the future is actually a kind of tolerance of the Xian family and the Cloud family. The things are very subtle. If you think about it carefully, I believe you will do better. Well, I'll go back first, and you two will discuss the rest, and you'll make your own decisions. We are not afraid of making mistakes, but we should make fewer mistakes. We can correct mistakes, make progress and improve, and never make the same mistakes again. With that, Yi Tian turned to fly in the direction of Xiandazong. Xuanxie and Yunzhong turned white to Yi Tian's back, but at the same time, their faces were full of meditation. More than 10 minutes after Yi Tian returned to Xiandao sect, Xuanxie and Yunzhong came back together. At this time, Xiandazong was quiet, no one whispered, no one spoke at will, everyone was waiting for Xuanxie and Yunzhong. These people can see clearly the scene of killing the soul of King Shueisha. The monk who was controlled by the spirit of Blood Evil King was named Guoxuanwu. He was a monk in the later period of the immortal Taoism. Can occupy the person's body, and control the spirit of the monk. Blood Evil King's soul can be imagined. Moreover, the speed of his escape is obvious to all. Even in the heyday of Shangguan Yunhong, the ancestor of Xiandazong, he was not as fast as that of Shueisha King. Basically, such an existence was also intercepted by the Xuanjia and Yunjia people, and was destroyed in a moment. At this time, all the disciples of Xiandazong, no matter they are monks in any realm, have no idea of escaping without permission. They can't escape. However, the only thing they can do next is to wait quietly. Waiting for the fate of the ruling, or Xuanjia and Yunjia final disposal decision. All the disciples of Xiandazong, they know that they are sinful, and they have abandoned their cultivation. From the soul searching, I also know that there are some bad deeds in some disciples of Xiandazong, but their sins do not kill them. It seems that they are too determined to abandon their cultivation, leaving him no chance to reform.
So, Yunmu and Zhuangjiazu decided to write down these things for the time being to see the aftereffect.
If I find that I continue to be evil after that, then I will never be soft-handed. I will settle the old accounts together with the new ones.
After he came back, Yunzhong pointed to the disciples of Xiandazong who had abandoned their cultivation on the ground. All the disciples of Xiandazong were silent, but some of them murmured in their hearts. Yunzhong didn't say what they were observing, and none of them was named. However, those disciples who had lost their virtue reflected on themselves like frightened birds, as if they felt that Yunzhong was talking about himself.
Xuanzhen then said, "The ancestor of Xiandazong and the patriarch Sima Changkong wanted to kill us.
They were captured by Laofu and others, and their brutality was exposed, which caused the disciples to take revenge on themselves. This matter has been exposed, and we will not pursue it too much."
Since then, Xiandazong has been removed from Luotian Lingjiu.
The original disciples of Xiandazong, please leave by yourself and find your own way.
Also, these are the people of your immortal sect.
When you leave Nameless Island, take them away. With that, he pointed to the monks who had abandoned their cultivation. Two people finish each other. Xuanmingzong disciples looked at each other. At first no one has action, but after 10 breath, someone began to leave the crowd to the direction of the land.
Surrounded by many monks and monsters, Xuanxie and Yunzhong have ordered them to give way and let the disciples of Xiandazong leave freely.
With Yi Tian, he touched his soft red lips and couldn't help but stay for a while.
On the other side, Yi Er didn't show any weakness and came on his other side. Well, isn't it very happy?
Seeing Yi Tian's strange smile, Qin Luoshan said with a smile.
It's a good deal, but it's too sudden. Yi Tian wiped away on the face. Do you want to go out to have a look now?
Qin Luoshan is in love for a moment. When he finishes, he feels embarrassed. When he hears that, he responds positively. Naturally, Ir is very happy to follow them and walk out of the Time Tower.
Where is this?
After coming to the Spacetime Tower and seeing the courtyard, Qin Luo asked curiously.
I'll take you out this time.
Please have a look at the sea view rooms here, and these are island villas with blue sky and white clouds, clear sea, and clear waves, so that you can have a good time for a few days.
I've been practicing in the Time and Space Tower, but I've made you suffer. Yi Tian is also in a good mood. He says half-jokingly as he walks. Brother Yi, it's very kind of you. It's hard for you to come out and breathe. I must have a big play.
Er's mind let go, suddenly aware of many monsters in the distance, suddenly screamed, "No, there are monsters. Don't be afraid, those are our own, are to protect us, won't hurt you."
Yi Tian spent more time with monsters than with Qin Luoshan.
Naturally, he was used to these monsters, but ignored the two little girls who were almost isolated from the world. When he heard the scream, he quickly appeased them.
Old 14, old 15, put away all your monsters. Later, Yi Tian sent a message to Xuanxie and Yunzhong.
Yes, master. Xuanxie is breaking up to accept the affairs of Xiandazong.
Hearing Yi Tian's message, he agrees in a hurry. When they see Qin Luo God and Er around Yi Tian, they can't help but look suffocated. Well, don't be suspicious.
Come here, you two. Yi Tian noticed two people's eyes from a distance, knew that the other side wanted to deviate, so he called them over.
These two are my new disciples.
These two beauties are my good friends who have been following me from the Earth Star all the time.
Wait until Shin Crack and Cloud Zhong come over, Yi Tian introduces away. What kind of good friend?
When I introduced you to my disciples last time, they all called me the nun, but now they have become good friends.
Good friends are not like this. They can see each other at least once a month. How can it take 7 or 8 days to see each other?
Er made a noise as if he were pouring beans from a bamboo tube.
Yi Tian is so embarrassed that Er dares to say anything.
He looked at Xuanxie and Yunzhong, and saw that they were just smiling with each other, and there was no other expression, so he was relieved.
Obviously, they didn't understand the contrast and politely didn't ask. Who knows, the next moment, the two looked at each other, bowed down together, and said, "I see you two ladies."
Well, don't be so polite. When Yi Tian was slightly embarrassed, Er waved his hand gracefully, "Let Yi Tian prepare for this meeting gift or something. We're so poor now that we're clean in our pockets."
Well, you two go and get busy.
Yi Tian doesn't know to continue to chat. Yi Sun will also emerge what to crack, quickly waved a hand, sent Xin Crack and Cloud Zhong away.
Xuanxie and Yunsangbro meet with amnesty, give Qin Luoshan and Yi a fist again, and turn to leave.
Luoshan, Yi has been studying well recently. He has a strong voice in geolinguistics.
As soon as they leave, Yi Tian looks at Qin Luo. Qin Luoshan laughed, "Didn't you hear that 2 women are 1,000 ducks?
It's natural for her to talk about her family routine after practice. Her intelligence and quick learning are her advantages."
"Well, I'll take it."
"Come on, look at the sea." Yi Tian no longer tries to reason with the woman, so he takes them to the seaside.
Half a day passed in a hurry.
Qin Luoshan and Yi were laughing all the time. They were smiling, laughing, running and laughing, not to mention how happy they were.
"Yi Tian, who are those monks?"
This is the first time that Qin Luoshan and Yi have come out of the time and space tower since they came to the spirit realm of Luo Tian. Naturally, they have met the children of the Xian family and the Yun family for the first time.
On the way back, Qin Luoshan asked, "Are those people under your 2 disciples?"
"See, they are very respectful to your 2 disciples." Yi Tian has been very happy for a long time.
He has been fighting for life and death. He is either chasing or being chased by others.
Naturally, he has a lot of pressure in his heart. After half a day's release, he empties a lot of pressure. Hearing Qin Luoshan's inquiry, he nods his head and says, "No mistake, those 2 disciples are very talented people. One is the head of the Taigu first family in Lantsong Lingyu, and the other is the head of the Yun family in Lantsong Lingyu. And here we are, it's the location of the first sect of Xiandazong in the spirit realm of Luo Tian.
Xiandazong has been disbanded and accepted by my 2 disciples.
In the next step, they will establish their foundation and expand their influence in the spirit realm of Luo Tian. It can be said that the spirit realm of Luo Tian in the future will be their world."
"It's really overbearing, Yi Tian. You've grown up so fast that we can only look at your back, but we can't keep up with you.
I also know that you've been out there fighting all the way, going through too many dangers. If you are tired, go to the Time Tower. It's your home." Qin Luoshan said and lowered his head, his face flushed.
"Yes, I will, but there are too many things to do during this period.
On the way back to the Earth, there is a lot of danger. We have to attack a place called No Return to the Sea, and then enter the next spiritual realm from there, which is called Time and Spiritual Realm.
There's not much time." How can Yi Tian not understand the meaning of Qin Luo God? He just pretends not to know and simply introduces some information.
In that case, we all know that your time is precious and that your promise has been fulfilled.
What's next? You can do it.
Besides, you also need time to practice.
The stronger you are, the safer we will be, won't you? Qin Luoshan said very reasonably. No matter how tight the time is, I'm not in a hurry. It's not easy to come out this time. Let's have a good time. Yi Tian knows that Qin Luoshan is insincere.
In fact, if he doesn't come out of the time and space tower, he will feel very bored.
Well, don't delay your business. Yi Tian said that. Qin Luo God happily agreed to come down,
and very happy Yi Tian can say so. They wandered around for a long time. Finally, when Qin Luoshan mentioned to do business first, Yi Tian followed them back to the time and space tower. Yi Tian stayed in it for 4 or 5 days, first refining a few furnaces of pills, and then dealing with some pressing things. In addition to the shape pill that he promised to give others, he also made some pills for Qin Luoshan, Yi, and himself.
In addition, we counted the Xumi commandments obtained in Lantsong and Luotian spiritual realms. Among them, there are even Xumi Jia, the 2 ancestors of Yupu, Anjia, and Jingjia.
Yi Tian is not short of resources now, neither are pills and weapons. But in those sutras, he still found some good things, even some rare spiritual materials.
After finishing the arrangement, Yi Tian put some cultivation resources into 2 Xumi commandments and gave them to Qin Luoshan and Yi. Are you going to leave?
Yi's eyes are a little red after taking Xumi commandment.
Not yet. Now go outside and have a look at the mobile garden I've prepared for you.
Yi Tian said with a mysterious smile.
Mobile garden? Qin Luo God and Yi immediately excited. Let's go. Tian takes the two girls out of the time and space tower again, gesturing continuously, releasing a magic weapon cave one after another, and then takes them in. It's a pity that so many flowers haven't bloomed yet? Qin Luotian saw a large number of spirit materials in the magic weapon cave and jumped up with excitement. No, these are all Linkai. Is this Brother Ye's medicine garden? After all, had more insight than Qin Luo, and she immediately found out that it was wrong. But Tian said with a smile, you are a layman. The most precious flower is Linkai. Linkai also blooms, and many Linkai flowers are rare in the world. Now I'm going to continue planting flowers. Would you like to join me? Under Tian's eloquence, he finally coaxes Qin Luotian and to help him plant those precious spiritual materials into two mobile medicine gardens. This is called Luotian Garden, and this is called Garden. I'll show you the growth next time. After everything is done, Tian leaves the medicine garden and says to the two girls, I like the name. Don't forget to show us next time. Qin Luotian laughs cooperatively. In fact, for her, it doesn't matter what we do together. Her heart is here, as long as Tian is there. Finally, it's time to separate temporarily. Tian takes out the time and space tower again and sends the two girls in. Put away the time and space tower, Tian looked to a place in the island and said, come here. With his voice, Xuanxie and Yunzhong show their bodies from the invisibility, and they have arrived at Tian's side in the next moment. Shifu, it's not that we're peeking. We're mainly worried about the safety of Shifu and the ladies, so we protect them secretly to avoid any accidents. Come to Tian's body, Xian Crack explains away in a hurry. I see what you mean. It's time to get down to business. Tell me something about Timon's spiritual realm, and the ghost realm and the underworld. Tian waved his hand and said, we have finished this matter. Lao Shiwu and I have sorted out a detailed information these days. Please have a look. The Xian Crack has already prepared, say words, took out a jade slip to give Leaf Day. Tian took the jade slip and pasted it on his forehead. It took him more than 2 hours. 2 hours later, Tian took the jade slip off his forehead. Master, what do you think? Yunzhong and Xuanxie have been waiting quietly. Seeing that Tian has finally finished reading the information, Yunzhong asks first. Tian put away the jade slips and said, although the situation is a little complicated and there are some dangers, I believe I can cope with it as a teacher. I know that Shifu has decided to go, and I can't keep him. These are the income from entering the spirit realm of Luo Tian. Shifu should take them with you. The road ahead is very difficult and dangerous. It must be useful. To make peace, Yunzhong takes out a Shumi ring and sends it to Tian. Tian took the Shumi commandment and branded it with the spirit. The spirit penetrated into it and found that there were dozens of Shumi commandments in it. Instead of recognizing the Lord one by one, he looked up and asked, what's in it? Yunzhong said, it's mainly Xianyu. There are also some magic weapons, monster materials, and some spiritual materials. Although they are not very precious, the number of them is still more. There are many masters and disciples, as well as those dead men and retinues. After arriving at the Earth Star, the resources are even more scarce, and the development of the temple also needs a lot of resources. You two are going to develop in the spirit realm of Luo Tian. You also need a lot of resources. In this way, as a teacher, you can only take half, and take the other half. Tian talks and throws the ring to Yunzhong. Yunzhong once again gave Zumaji back to Tian Dao and said, we have already left what we should stay. We have many people, and we have our own families behind us. Everything is easy to do. Master is alone, and there are too many people who need protection and care. If you look at those two nuns, you can only observe the cultivation of the sea. You need a lot of resources. Tian nodded and said, well, I'll take them as a teacher. Those two are not really teachers. They are too playful. They have been practicing for more than a year before they reached the sea view. I'm really disappointed. More than a year? Xuanxie and Yunzhong take a look at each other and look at each other.
Originally they were going to comfort Yi Tian, but now they see that the speed is very adverse. But none of them knew that Yi Tian had a lot of water when he said this. How much more did he have for more than a year? It's a very mysterious question. Yi Tian just wants to use the speed to stimulate the two disciples and let them grow up. Here are 5 shape-changing pills. Give one to the 6th level monster, and you can turn into shape on the spot in front of many monsters. For the rest, keep 2 of them separately, and use them as you please. Put down the topic before. Yi Tian gesture move, took out a jade bottle, gave Cloud Zhong. Cloud Zhong opened to see, oneself. Take away 3, connect jade bottle together with other 2 Dan medicine to give Xian crack together. Well, Lao Shiwu, you can do it first. Let's keep Lei's sword. It's useful for teachers. Wait for 2 people sent finished Dan medicine, Leaf Day says to Cloud Zhong. Yun Zhong naturally has no opinion. He gives the Lei Shu sword to Yi Tian, and then leaves with Huaxing Dan. Yi Tian took over Lei's sword and handed it to Xuanxie. Lao 14 and Lao 15 are not as powerful as you. This time, you have to work hard to cultivate Lei insects with Lei's sword. They need to improve the power of thunder and lightning through the thunder of the sword, and try to increase their combat power to the maximum strength before attacking and returning to the sea. No problem. Xuanxie took over Lei's sword, nodded his head and said, that disciple will start now. With these words, Xuanxie was about to leave here, but he waved his hand to him and said, it's okay to do it in a moment. As a teacher, I have something else to ask you. Master has something to say, but it doesn't hurt to say it. Yi Tian says so. Xian Crack feels a little surprised, says in a hurry. Yi Tian asked, what are you going to do about Xian Run? Seeing that Yi Tian was talking about this problem, Xuanxie immediately said, Master, according to the clan rules, betraying the family is a capital crime. We have done our utmost to help him live so long and save the captured people from danger. If he doesn't die in battle, his disciples are ready to carry out the clan rules. Yi Tian pondered, so, you just have to carry out the clan rules to convince the public? Master, that's exactly what I mean. It seems that I have different opinions. If Master has something to say, just say it. The disciples will do whatever Master says. Xuanxie takes a look at Yi Tian and says with a bitter smile that they are all mature people. He finds that Yi Tian is so interested in this matter, and there must be a big reason. But Yi Tian said with a smile, the clan rules must be carried out and must be obeyed. Otherwise, it is difficult to manage such a large family. But Shifu did have another idea. The so-called clan rules are just clear rewards and punishments. Recently, I paid special attention to Xianrun. Except that he was a bit uncertain about whether to choose Xuanjia or Xuanmingzong, he was very good to the Xuanjia people. In the previous extremely chaotic war, he fought very hard and didn't take the opportunity to escape. So, apart from the guilt he committed, there are still some merits. The execution of clan rules also requires sentencing. You can sentence him to death, but you can also suspend his execution. The flexibility lies in your own control, but the reason for the postponement is because of the merits of the battle between the Netherworld and Xiandazong. Moreover, the Xin family's side branch must be included in the camp here. If you kill Xianrun directly, you will have a rift with the Xian family's side branch, and you will certainly have trouble in the future. When Yi Tian said this, Xuanxie said with a bitter smile, the disciples have carefully considered the problem of the side branch of the Xuanjia family that the master said, but with the clan rules, the disciples have nothing to do. But what does master mean by postponement? It's the first time I've heard of this formulation. Yi Tian Dao, in fact, it's very simple. Xianrun can die, but he can also die later. In this way, we not only carried out the clan rules, but also considered the feelings of the Xian family, and showed the justice of clear rewards and punishments. The specific method of execution is to let this man practice the spirit subduing skill that he gave to Yun Hong, the ancestor of Xiandazong. In this way, his Shouyuan was halved, which means that his execution was suspended. Then they will drive it out of the Longsong and Luotian spiritual realms, and let it be supervised and executed by the master. Who else can say what? After listening to Yi Tian's words, Xuanxie looks at Yi Tian for more than 10 minutes. As he looks at Yi Tian, his eyes gradually brighten, and finally he laughs. Master, I say, you are determined to save Xianrun. It turns out that Master wants to reuse this person. In fact, there is no need for this. If we consider that there are some space channels that can't pass the realm above Yuanying, then the disciples can choose elite children to practice the art of spiritualism and follow the Master. That is to say, the disciples can practice the art themselves, even if they lose half of Shouyuan. After all, with Master's ability, there must be a way to increase Shouyuan to his disciples.
Why use that Xian Run?
However, Yi Tian shook his head when he heard the words. It's impossible for others to use Xian Run as a teacher, but it's convenient to use Xian Run as a teacher. On the one hand, he can live longer, on the other hand, he can exert some strength around me. After all, there are some things that need to be done by high-level monks, such as Xianyang Stone. For example, the 1,000-year-old peach tree thunder sword is used to stimulate the power of thunder.
Different levels have different effects. Moreover, in some things, it must be done by high-level monks.
There is no need for more than one if Master says that. I'll spare his life. When the time comes, I'll do something and Master will cooperate. I'll make him feel grateful to Master and go with you wholeheartedly.
Xian Crack did not insist on sending people to escort, but nodded.
Well, it's settled like this.
First, you should teach Lei Songcheng.
Master, go to other places to relax.
With words, Yi Tian has disappeared from the original place.
Xian Crack looked around, but didn't find any difference.
He couldn't help shaking his head and ignored Yi Tian.
This degree of seclusion has made him despair. He feels that he can't practice it even after 10,000 years. At the moment, he recognized Lei's sword as the Master, called Lei's insect, and began to blow out thunder.
On the edge of Inexplicable Island, Yi Tian's figure suddenly appeared out of thin air on a dark brown rock which was empty.
Then he bounced up on the rock, turned over in the air for 2.5 weeks, and dived into the sea vertically without turning up a trace of water. After entering the sea, Yi Tian gestured, and the 5-element bead from the turtle and monster appeared in his hand. He didn't immediately urge the bead, but used the technique of water evasion to dive to the bottom of the sea, because the last time he urged the 5-element bead, he found a problem. The mana cost to urge the 5-element bead was huge. The 5-element bead was like a bottomless hole. The mana in the elixir field poured violently and was absorbed by the 5-element bead. Based on Yi Tian's current mana, he predicted that if he tried his best to activate the bead, it would not take more than 3 minutes, and his whole body mana would be exhausted, and he could not continue to activate the 5-elements bead. It's a magic weapon that can burn magic power, but it's good on the whole. Take Tian Luonet for example. The mysterious crack can only be used 5 or 6 times, and then it can't be activated anymore. Yi Tian had already tried the effect in the sea, so he didn't need to try it again. He went straight to the bottom of the sea and directly converted it into the art of earth hiding in the earth. Until this time, he just mobilized the mana to urge the 5-element bead in his hand, and suddenly he had a strange feeling. This kind of feeling is quite different from that in the water. In the seawater is squeezed around to form a vacuum zone. As he flies away, the vacuum zone will follow him. No matter how fast he moves, he will never touch the seawater as long as he pushes the bead. In the soil, there is also a vacuum zone. The vacuum zone in the water is real, while in the soil, this vacuum zone is illusory. The soil around him didn't rush out and squeeze, but a detached round halo appeared around him. In the halo, the soil is nihilistic, and he seems to have become nihilistic. At the time of flight, it seems that it is the illusory shadow of its own passing through the soil. Its speed is not affected at all, which is the same as that of flight in the sky. Flying away for a short distance, Yi Tian's mana stopped, and the feeling of nothingness disappeared immediately. I really stand in the real soil and everything is back to normal. Feeling the situation that he had just passed through the earth and used the earth to escape as if he were flying in the air, Yi Tian was filled with ecstasy. These 5-element beads are really awesome. When Yi Tian rubs the 5-element bead in his palm with his fingers, he can't put it down. Although the bead costs too much mana, it can produce magical effect when used at the critical moment. After a little meditation, Yi Tian came out of the soil and returned to the sea again. Then he opened his mind. After a little observation, he chose a direction to escape. Soon, he stood in the part of Nameless Island connected with the sea,
and there was a huge gray-brown rock in front of him. The 5 elements of the 5 element beads are gold, wood, water, fire and earth. The water property and the earth property have been tried. The stone is between the metal property and the earth property. Tian also wants to try it. A little calm mind, Tian again mobilize mana to activate the 5 element beads. At this time, another strange phenomenon happened in front of Tian's eyes. There is also a halo, and on one side of the halo is the vacuum formed by the seawater, while on the other side of the stone, a virtual shadow appears again within the halo. The edge of the shadow and the vacuum of the sea just form a circle. I see. Looking at the scene in front of him, Tian nodded and stepped back. With this step out, the vacuum location of the seawater is instantly enlarged, and the virtual shadow and the stone penetration is correspondingly reduced. At this time, Tian did the opposite and took a step forward, making his body close to the edge of the stone. This time, the vacuum in the water was narrowed, but the semicircular shadow of the stone was larger than before. The virtual shadow of the stone and the vacuum zone just formed a circle. This situation is completely consistent with Tian's conjecture. At this time, he no longer looks at the vacuum zone and the virtual shadow of the stone, but moves forward into the virtual shadow of the stone. The real stone in front of him seems to have become the air, and the virtual shadow of Tian's body enters into the interior of the stone head without hindrance. As he entered the stone, the round shadow still enveloped himself in the middle. To be exact, it was a round shadow centered on the invisible living in his hands. This is the first time for Tian to enter into the stone in this way. His figure moves and flies forward. The shadow of the stone flashes in front of his eyes. Just this time, he has gone deep into the deep of the big stone. The ecstasy in Tian's heart is greatly increased. He turns his body and flies upward. With Tian's escape speed, however, 7 or 8 breaths has passed through the underground stone of Inexplicable Island and flew into the air. Tian, who was in the air, was suddenly stunned. In front of him, many sea monsters were watching quietly around the 6th level sea monsters with many tentacles. There are not only sea monsters, but also some land monsters. In addition, he found Yunzhong and some children of Xuanjia and Yunjia in the herd. Although there are many people and animals, there is no sound around. Tian suddenly came out of the big stones on the ground and flew to the sky, but it surprised the monks and monsters on the scene, so that those monsters and friars looked at Tian in the air and then looked at the ground to confirm that the ground was really a big stone, and it was a whole stone. They didn't know how thick it was. Once confirmed, many monsters and friars could not help petrifying. Master, how can you still come here to help Wu Daoyu transform himself? The only one who knows about the 5 element beads is Yunzhong. Seeing this, he has guessed that Tian used the 5 element beads to have the magic power to penetrate the big stone. Now, he doesn't say anything about it. He salutes Tian. Tian didn't explore the situation above when he was flying away in the stone. This time, he mistakenly came here. However, Yunzhong couldn't say anything about this question, so he said, the human race and the demon race are the cultivation of heaven and earth, and share the same way with each other. This Wu Taoist friend has become a figure again. As a teacher, he has to come to watch the ceremony and witness the great achievement of his transformation. With this saying, Tian's eyes shine through and looks at the tentacled sea monster. After counting the breath, he has seen the situation inside the sea monster clearly. Originally, the 360 orifices in the monster's body should have been 1 orifices that had not been opened. However, under the powerful medicinal force before washing pill, the great power is impacting the whole orifices of the monster along the established path. By now, the orifices are coming to an end. Of all the orifices, only 2 have not been broken, but under the impact of the medicinal force, they should be successful soon. Tian eyebrows slightly pick, right hand to the sky a grasp, mouth a big drink, by the power of heaven and earth, help you shape. After that, his right hand raised, and a soft air mass with shining halo wrapped the tentacle sea monster. When the tentacle sea monster was wrapped by the air mass, his body was shocked. The great power of the pill has already broken through one of the great tricks, and has successfully impacted the last big orifice at 1 stroke. Tentacle sea monsters suddenly feel a strange power full of the whole body.
The whole body of the beast has changed from birth to look around. Many tentacles have completely disappeared. Instead, the unique legs and feet of the human race are gradually formed. The originally round and soft big head has also turned into the human head. However, some of the ontological features of this sea monster are still left. In his mandible, what grows is not human whiskers, but small flesh whiskers, like catfish whiskers. This is a very normal phenomenon in the form of demonization. Ha ha ha. I've finally made it. At that moment, Tentacle Sea Monster was very excited. After laughing, he knelt down to Yi Tian. Thank you for your help. According to this monster's idea, Yi Tian is the master of Xuanxie and Yunzhong, and both of them are monks of Huaxinjing, so they should be friends with their peers. In this case, then I should be called Master Yi Tianyishing according to my seniority. The main reason is that after countless years of impact, the sea demon has been unable to break through any orifices. He was already disheartened about the transformation and had no more thoughts. But today, Yi Tian suddenly succeeded in shaping himself, and it was with the help of heaven and earth that Yi Tian finally succeeded in shaping himself. Otherwise, he didn't know very well what the last trick was. Huaxing Pill was refined by Yi Tian, and finally it was successfully transformed with the help of Yi Tian's magical power. Naturally, Yi Tian would be grateful. Not only the tentacled sea monster, but also the rest of the monsters, even the Terran friars including Yin Zhong, did not know whether the success of the sea demon's transformation was due to the power of the elixir or the last finishing touch of Yi Tian, with the help of the power of heaven and earth. Anyway, Yi Tian in addition to the realm is not high, but the power of the big, even if anything happens to him, will not feel strange. For a moment, when Tentacle Sea Monster kneels down, all eyes turn to Yi Tian. And those eyes, in addition to awe. At the moment, Yi Tian looks at the sea demon after the transformation. There is no waves on his face. Even his voice is very calm and almost indifferent. This Wadeo, it seems that you should not thank Yi. You don't know Yi. Yi naturally won't refine the pill for you, nor will he help you with the power of heaven and earth. It's Yun Zhong, the 15th disciple of Yi. He specially asked Yi for the Huaxing Pill and you. It's also because of the relationship between Yun Zhong that you succeed in one-time transformation. If you really want to thank him, thank Yun Zhong. Hearing Yi Tian's words, the tentacle sea demon who has just been transformed into a successful one quickly nods and says yes, and bows to Yun Zhong. But Yi Tian seems to have turned into air and disappeared from the original place, leaving only 2 wet footprints on the big stone, proving that he had been here. Come without a shadow, go without a trace, it's really an expert style. The presence of many monsters, but also a lot of offer Yi, those who have been transformed into a successful sea demon, standing in the same place, for a time pondering, began to consider an Yi Tian party really make friends. After he left here, Yi Tian's mind covered the whole island. He found that Shen Crack had summoned more than a dozen monks of the Xian family. At this time, it was Xin Meng who urged the 1,000-year-old Taomu Leichu sword. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian understood that using the Millennium Peachtree Thunder Sword also costs a lot of mana. Shen Crack wanted to mobilize the power of the group to make those thunder insects eat enough at one time. Because of this scene, Yi Tian temporarily changed his plan, temporarily adjusted the time when the attack did not return to the sea, and delayed it for a few days. Instead of going to the dark crack, he found a quiet place, took out the spacetime tower and entered it again. After a few words with Qin Luotian and Yi Er, Yi Tian takes out the newly refined pills and begins to practice. He restores the mana he just spent using the 5-element beads. Little by little, time passed in the cultivation. I don't know how long later, Yi Tian finished refining all the power of the pill, and then he got up and left the time and space tower. At this time, his mana has reached the most powerful state in history, he is full of energy, and his mind power has also made some progress. Most importantly, he felt that his realm was about to reach the peak of Longmen realm in the later period. In time, he could break through the barriers in the later period and enter the peak of Longmen realm. But Yi Tian didn't want to continue to practice here anymore. The urgency of returning to the earth prompted him to set about not returning to the sea as soon as possible. Master! Yi Tiangang just got out of the time and space tower, and Yun Zhong showed his figure from a distance.
These days when Yi Tian entered the Time and Space Tower, Yunzhong and others took turns to protect him. They did their best. Yi Tian nodded to Yunzhong and said, "Old 15, you've worked hard. Now gather all the people here and set up a plan to attack and not return to the sea." Yes, the Cloud Zhong agrees. The hand gesture moves, took out a few to send a message sign to inspire to go out. After Yi Tian put away the spacetime tower, he took out a magic weapon cave and stepped into it. However, in 6 or 7 minutes, all the people came quickly, including Xian Run, the leader of the side branch of the Xian family. Everyone enters the magic cave and sits down on their knees. Yi Tian's eyes scan all the people's faces. Finally, he looks at the mysterious crack. "Old 14, what's the situation with Lei Lei Chong?" "Report back to Master." After nearly a month's continuous strengthening, Lei Chong has a faint sign of entering the 6th level. The power of thunder is much stronger than before. This 1,000-year-old peach tree Lei Chu sword and Lei Chu insect are made in heaven. They actually complement each other. Xian Crack excitedly says. "Don't strengthen the thunder bug anymore, it's just right." Hearing what Xuanxie said, Yi Tiankai knew that he had practiced for nearly 10 days in the Time and Space Tower. 10 days in the tower, and 30 days outside the tower. In nearly a month, how many white 7 days the Millennium Leisua worm had to absorb from the Leisua sword? And those friars must not sleep for a month, taking turns to hypnotize the Millennium Peach Thunder Sword. The degree of their hard work can be imagined. The most important thing is that Lei Lei insects can never break through to level 6, otherwise Yi Tian can't take them away and can't pass through the space channel. It's dangerous for the 5th level spirit insects to pass through the space channel. Once they reach level 6, they can't. This is also because the spirit insect is no bigger than other large monsters. The space crushing force produced by the spirit insect in the space passage is slightly smaller. If it is a 5th order monster, it is impossible to pass. Yes, but at the master's command. The Xian Crack faintly knows the reason among them, at present happily agreed one. Now that the power of thunder and lightning is much stronger, let's discuss the matter of attacking and not returning to the sea. Although today's meditation can only be carried out in the dark fog, if it is not completely eliminated, it will bring a lot of future troubles when they grow up. After all, meditation also has a body and bones, and can get out of the dark fog. Yi Tian continued, "According to my conjecture, the reason why the underworld cultivation has not shown the attachment of flesh and bones up to now is that they do not want to expose this. If the monks in the spirit domain of Luo Tian know that they call the skeleton clan, that is, the underworld cultivation needs a strong body very much, then the difficulty of the underworld clan in obtaining the attachment of flesh and bones will increase exponentially. But if you ignore the underworld, one day they will be strong enough to make the whole spirit realm of Luo Tian tremble, and they will walk out of the fog. After all, there is a Ming Zun in the underworld, but there is no great monk in Yupu realm. What's more, Xuanjia, Yunjia and Xuanmingzong have become enemies, and the people of Xuanmingzong are hiding in the sea. If they want to eliminate the remaining evils of Xuanmingzong, they must win the sea. We should learn some lessons from Xiandazong. There are 2 monks in Xiandazong who are possessed by Xuanmingzong. Who can guarantee that the people of Yunjia and Xuanjia will not encounter such things in the future? Therefore, if we want to get rid of Xuanmingzong once and for all, we must eradicate it completely. Finally, because I haven't left the spirit realm of Luotian, it's easier to eradicate the Xianming sect and the underworld clan. This is our purpose and motive. We must have a clear understanding of this. People quietly listen to what Yi Tian said and keep nodding. At this time, Xian Crack said, "Master, we have no problem." "What does Master say?" "We fully follow the Master's command. At present, the main problem is how to achieve this goal with the least casualties?" Yi Tian took a look at the dark crack and gently laughed. "The smallest casualty? Old 14th, you are wrong. If you want to do this, no casualties are allowed. To exchange the cost of casualties for the destruction of the underworld and Xianming sect can only show our incompetence. What I want is to achieve the goal without any casualties." What he said made everyone look at each other. Yi Tian was resourceful and almost helpless, but after all, his strength was too weak, and there was another monk named Mingzuan who was equivalent to the great monk of the Jade Pu realm of the human race. Moreover, the number of the other side's Hades is far more than that of the other side's monks. Although there are a lot of cards here, such as Tian Luonet, 1000-year-old Peachtree Thundersword and Hui Bao. However, although the immortal weapon is strong, it can deal with several people at the same time, but the number of the secret cultivation is too much. Even Xianxia thought it was impossible. He looked at Yi Tian and said, "But, Master, how can it be? If hundreds of people are really angry, even if we get out of the fog sea, if they use the flesh and bones to swarm on, even if we finally eliminate them, there will not be any casualties?" Hearing the words, Yi Tian calmly waved his hand. "I've thought of this, and the key point is here. Let's use the strategy to attack the heart first to anger the underworld. In order to eliminate the underworld, it is not to fight in the dark fog, but to lead them out. Once they use the flesh and bones, in this case, everyone present will not have to fight with them. They will all hide and avoid. Except for a few immortal weapons, the rest will be left to me." "Master, how can that be?" "No matter how powerful Master is, after all, the time of cultivation is limited. It's impossible for us to deal with so many meditators by ourselves, and we can't let Master take risks on our own," Cloud Zhong says in a hurry. But Yi Tian said with a smile, "Master never does anything that is uncertain. If there is great danger, he will not take risks. There are some ways to deal with the attachment of flesh and bones. Even if I'm defeated, I have a way to retreat. Today, I'm not talking about whether or not I should deal with the problem of using the body to attach bones. Instead, I'm telling you how to protect yourself and not cause any casualties. The most important point is that everyone will obey my command and obey unconditionally. The situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly. Now it is impossible to come up with a set of unchanging operational plans. I will make a temporary response according to the actual situation. Give you a day to get back to your best and a day to start from here. One day is actually 2 days for the monks who are recovering in the magic cave." After Yi Tian finished, he let everyone out. He sat in the cave with his knees crossed and began to think carefully. Time passed quickly. As soon as the appointed time arrived, 55 monks including Shen Run, together with 8 sixth-order sea demons, were waiting in the island on time. This battle will be a miracle, a battle to show the strength of Xuanjia, Yunjia, and demon monks. After this war, if you don't return to the sea, you will no longer exist. You will sweep away the meditation and return a pure and bright world to the spirit realm of Luotian. Yi Tian's eyes swept the crowd, and then he took the lead in flying to the direction of not returning to the sea. Vast do not return to the sea, fog covered in the sea, nearly 10,000 miles or gray fog. From a distance, it is boundless, as if this sea area is a sea of dark fog, strange, mysterious, full of killing opportunities, so that countless monks are famous. At this time, 17 figures came quickly from afar, and stopped when they were more than half a mile away from the dark fog. The leader is Yi Tian. The other 16 figures are 8 human friars and 8 6th-level demon practitioners. Looking into the dark fog, Yi Tian waves his hand. The 8 children of the Xin family are divided into 2 groups and fly in different directions along the edge of the dark fog. Every 30 or 50 miles away, a friar stops, and so on. When all 8 people stop, the friars at both ends are more than 400 miles away. At a certain moment, Yi Tian's gesture moved, a thunder was sent out, and a lightning across the sky split into the fog sea from the sky. It's a signal of engagement. Seeing the most striking lightning in the sky, the 8 monks approached the fog sea one after another. When they were near the edge of the fog sea, they took out a black stone from Shumi ring and poured magic power on the black stone. The dark fog on the edge of the fog sea turned into small whirlpools and connected to the black stone. This stone is exactly the dark stone that Yi Tian brought from the spiritual realm of the great wilderness, and the 8 children of the Xian family used the dark stone to absorb the dark fog in the fog sea. Although the whirlpool looks very small, compared with the whole fog sea, it is just a drop of water in the ocean, but the 8 monks are very serious, meticulously urging the magic power, constantly absorbing the fog. Theoretically, if the dripping water can penetrate the stone, if the dark stone is infinite, but the fog of the fog sea cannot be increased, no matter how many years, the dark chi in the fog sea will be absorbed by the dark stone one day. These 8 friars are just like Yugong who absorbs the fog.
When a dark stone was full of dark air, the children of the Xian family put away the dark stone, then took out another dark stone and continued to absorb the dark fog. In this way, after 7 or 8 pieces of dark stone were changed, the dark repair in the fog sea finally had a movement. More than 20 white skeletons flash from the fog and pounce on one of the Xian family's children. The monk of the Xian family senses the appearance of the monk, puts away the stone, enters the invisible state and flies away in the distance. They lost their target, chased out of the fog sea for a mile or two, and then returned to the fog. In this way, the 8 children of the Xian family who absorb the dark fog all encounter such a situation. The 8 children selected by Yi Tian are all excellent in the cultivation of occult art. In this situation, it's very easy for them to escape the pursuit. The two sides seem to be playing cat and mouse game. The white bones and skeletons have just returned to the dark fog. Soon after, the 8 monks of the Xian family changed to another edge of the dark fog and continued to take out the dark stone to absorb the dark air. Because the space passage leading to the time and spiritual realm has been closed in one direction, the ghosts in the time and spiritual realm can no longer provide the dark air here, and the dark fog still floating out of the grottos is just the residual dark air in the space passage, which will soon be exhausted. Although the dark fog is thousands of miles wide, it will consume less. The meditation practitioners don't know how many thousands of years there will be, so every trace of the dark fog is very precious to these meditation practitioners. So that when Yi Tian absorbed the dark fog with his fierce sword, he caused Mingzuan's anger. When the monk of the Xian family changed his place, soon, some white bones and skeletons would rush there and continue to pursue and kill the monk of the Xian family. These children who are good at reclusion will not let these people succeed. They are just like Loach. Under the cover of reclusion, they can escape without leaving a trace. A chase and an escape and return, so the drama is constantly on. Yi Tian is just not far away from the edge of the fog sea, watching the scenes, with a smile on his lips. And the 8 sea monsters, 3 or 4 miles behind Yi Tian, are also watching this scene. Although the actions of the Xuanjie friars were very provocative, for some reason, the white bones and skeletons were extremely restrained and did not chase out the dark fog too far, nor did any of them use the body to attach bones. Both sides are competing for patience. Time flies, in this constant pursuit. 3 days have passed. When they felt that the mana cost was too much, the 8 children of the Xian family restored their mana, and then changed to different places to continue to absorb the dark qi. In the continuous process of absorbing the qi, although the speed of absorbing the qi is limited, 8 people absorb it at the same time, and there are countless stones. The qi absorbed by the children of the Xian family is not small. Finally, from the 4th day, the response of the meditation changed. After the last expulsion of the Xuanjia monks, the meditation did not go deep into the fog, but stayed at the edge of the fog and continued to guard the fog. Those meditations spread widely, covering a large area. Naturally, the number of meditations at each edge of the fog decreased accordingly. It's strange that the Buddha in the fog never appeared. The other members of the Xuanjia and Yunjia didn't show up either. The only ones who showed up and didn't absorb the dark fog were Yi Tian and the 8 sixth-order sea monsters. The 4th day, about half a day later, this barely maintained balance was suddenly broken. Somewhere on the edge of the dark fog, more than a dozen white bones and skeletons stationed here suddenly made a mess. No enemy appeared, but the roaring sound kept on, mixed with more than a dozen strong thunder, roared at the white bones and skeletons. Under the raid, 7 or 8 skeletons were smashed and killed by the powerful thunder on the spot. Then, more than 20 monks, such as Xuanxie and Yunzhong, showed their bodies and surrounded and killed the remaining 7 skeletons. After more than 10 breaths, these white bones and skeletons were all killed under the powerful attack of Xuanxie and others. After the success, Shin Crack and others didn't stay half a minute, they set up Dunlight one after another to fly away from the fog sea. Soon after, a huge roar came out from the sea of fog, and then a white shadow turned into a virtual shadow, and the electric fire generally chased Xincha and others away. It's the Buddha in the fog. Although Ming Zun was wearing a skeleton, his speed was better than that of Shin Crack, not to mention other monks of Xin family and Yun family. Speed stealth. In front of the mysterious Crack to see the white skeleton chasing closer, he said in a deep voice. Hearing the order, the other monks of the Xian family and the Yun family disappeared from the original place in a flash, leaving only the Shen crack still flying away at full speed. The white skeleton didn't care about the other invisible friars at all. He just locked the dark crack and pursued the past regardless of everything. What a speed the Shen crack flies to escape at the same time secretly complain bitterly, distance leaf day predetermined ambush place still has a distance, press the speed of the present should be enough oneself to rush past. But if you use Tian Luonet, even if you can't catch the ghost body of Mingzun, you can at least capture his skeleton and bones, and then you can control the ghost body of the underworld. However, the master repeatedly explained that as long as Mingzun still uses the skeleton appendages, he must not use Tian Luonet until he is trapped, unless his life is in danger. At this time, his life is not in danger, just a skeleton so chase, how many have some embarrassment? Xuanxie tried his best to fly away quickly. When he arrived at a certain sea area, he finally took a long breath and finished the mission. But the play still needs to be performed as much as possible. Although he reaches the area designated by Yi Tian, his speed doesn't slow down at all. Instead, he improves the mana in the elixir field and makes the speed even more explosive. When the Mingzun under the Fury chased the position of Yi Tian's ambush, he suddenly gave a loud hum, and a transparent shield with a radius of more than 10 feet emerged, which just covered the Mingzun. It's done! Yi Tian, who has always been watching the chase, clenched his fist and finally let out a cry of excitement. Another thunder came down from the sky. The 8 Xuanjia friars who absorbed the dark qi immediately stopped their movements and disappeared. At the same time, Yi Tian released Dun Tiansuo to escape from the trapped Mingzun. At this time, many practitioners in the dark fog also found that Mingzun was trapped. White shadows flew out of the dark fog one after another and fled to the position where Mingzun was trapped. In this way, such a scene appeared on the sea. Yi Tian steers Dun Tiansuo to the direction where Mingzun is trapped. The 8 sea monsters enter the sea in an instant and escape from the waterway to the direction where Mingzun is trapped. Behind them were white bones and skeletons that had been stretched out for a long distance. At this time, Yi Tian was still thousands of miles away from the place where he was trapped, and those practices were farther away. In Dun Tiansuo, Yi Tian's gesture moves. Shenrun, who is put into the ring of Spirit Beast, appears out of thin air. As soon as he appears, Shenrun presses his palm on one of Dun Tiansuo's runes and pours mana into it. Under the full encouragement of the monks in the later period of the spirit-transforming realm, Dun Tiansuo's speed was a little faster, and he was even faster than those white bones behind. At a certain moment, Xuanxie and Yunzhong, who left the besieged place of Mingzun, met Yi Tian, who was flying away. Yi Tian nodded to Yunzhong and Xuanxie. 2 people released the divine idea at the same time. Many sea and land monsters were released by them in an instant before, showing a great momentum in the sky. At the same time, the 8 sixth-order sea monsters who escaped on the sea also took the waves, jumped out of the sea and joined the ranks of monsters. A moment later, the first group of ghosts and skeletons, who were in hot pursuit, flew away and stopped slowly when they saw that the animals were too dense to speak of stopped their way. A chatter came out, as if they were discussing something. There are only more than 40 white-boned gods. Facing 2 humanized monks, 8 sixth-order sea monsters and more than 1,000 fifth-order monsters, they dare not go forward easily. That is tantamount to seeking their own death. At the time of negotiation, the white-boned gods came one after another and gathered together, and the number increased rapidly. All of a sudden, the bodies of friars appeared in front of some white-boned Hades, and then some black shadows flew out of the white-boned skeletons and flew into those bodies, which were the body with bones. More and more white bones and skeletons began to take out the body bones and replace the skeleton bones. Withdraw. After meeting Xin Crack and Yunzhong, Yi Tianyan, who stayed down, was a little happy, and then spat out a word. Xuanxie and Yunzhong heard the words, and the spirit thought locked the monster who recognized his master and quickly sent it back to the ring of Spirit Beast. However, the 8 sea monsters suddenly fell down and fell into the sea again. And Yi Tian also takes this opportunity to release Shenrun. He is a magic hit on Dun Tiansuo, put the treasure away, and then disappeared. After collecting the monsters, Xuanxie and Yunzhong see Yi Tian disappear. They turn around and fly away, while Shenrun follows them and flies to the direction where Mingzun is trapped. Before, there was still a large herd of beasts blocking the way.
In the blink of an eye, it was empty. There was no more monster to be seen. Only 3 monks rushed to the place where Mingzuan was trapped. More than 300 Ming gods who had just replaced the body and bones immediately drove Duanwang to chase Xuanxie and others. Although they also thought that there might be some arrangement in the aspect of human race, they could not care so much about the 3 more Ming gods coming together. It was important to rescue Mingzun. Even if the Terran had some arrangement, how could there be more than 300 Hades who were equivalent to the cultivation of the flower god realm of the Terran? In the vast sky, more than 300 people dressed in flesh and bones fly forward, but when they fly 3 or 4 miles away again, suddenly there is a continuous roar in the group of gods. Boom! Boom! Boom boom! The sound is continuous, which can't be described by this rising and falling. That's because many roaring sounds are emitted at the same time, mixed together, and the sound is multiplied, as if it can shake the world. Even the sea below is constantly shaking in the roaring sound. As soon as the sound of the roar came out, Fei Dun, Shin Crack, Yun Zhong and Xian Run suddenly turned around and looked behind them. They were stunned by what happened in the distance. In the dense underworld group, with the continuous sound, many underworld gods dressed in flesh and bones burst into self-explosion. The powerful power of self-explosion was that in the sky, blood was splashing everywhere, broken limbs and bodies were flying everywhere, and countless blood and flesh were mixed together, splashing out for miles. In the sky, there were flying and falling bodies everywhere. The scene was extremely tragic. In the continuous explosion, the number of Hades decreased sharply, from 300 to 200, and then from 200 to 100. In the end, with the explosion, only more than 40 Hades turned and flew away very fast. They did not explode and were not affected by the explosion. More than 40 undecided spirits fled more than 10 miles away before they stopped and looked at the countless amputated bodies floating on the sea in the distance. Their faces turned pale, and they never approached the front again. This is what Master said about the way to deal with the underworld. It's terrible. Until the sound of the explosion disappeared, the mysterious crack looked at the sky which was full of ghosts before, and now the empty sky murmured to itself. What do you think? Besides, who else can kill so many meditation practitioners in a moment? Yun Zhong's eyes flashed and his body was a little stiff, but he still murmured such words. And that Xian Run is the most unbearable. He looks at the place where the explosion happened before. He doesn't say a word. He has only 2 words in his head. Yi Tian. There are only more than 40 gods left. With our strength, we can wipe out those who do not return to the sea. As long as you are careful, there should not be any casualties. Unexpectedly, the goal set by Master has been achieved in this way. Looking at the more than 40 ghosts who were still in shock, Xian Crack whispered again. It's a pity that if Shifu could kill all the gods in the First World War, it would create an immortal legend in the spirit realm of Luotian. After countless years, the great achievements of Shifu will be spread here, and the word Yi Tian will shine forever in the spirit realm of Luotian. Yun Zhong murmured it this time. This is an extremely rare achievement. It's more than 300 gods. Even the great friars in Yupu can't kill them all. Xuanxie looks at Yun Zhong and says with a smile, if this person is not his father-in-law, he may also ridicule some whimsical words. However, before he had finished all his words, he heard another loud noise in the distance. What he saw was that the sound came from more than 40 gods. At the beginning, only a few Hades exploded, but then more and more Hades began to explode. After a few breaths, only one Hades was still in good condition. The Hades was the fastest to see the opportunity. When the first explosion was sent out, he fled from the place. Look, the master must have started again. Xuanxie pointed to the place where the explosion happened with his hand. Unfortunately, I escaped one. When the fleeing god turned to wait and see, the god unexpectedly made a loud bang, which turned into countless pieces of meat splashing in all directions. Look, it's finally complete. Master has killed all the gods. This is my master. My master's name is Yi Tian, the great Yi Tian. Xuanxie was a little crazy with excitement. It seems that Yi Tian is not my master. Are you still not my son-in-law? Pay attention in the future. Don't yell like old 15. Only Master is qualified to yell like this. Don't overstep it. Cloud Zhong curled his lips and said. You're the old 15, are you going to call your father-in-law in front of my master?
Xian Crack mumbles to say. It's called Shiwu younger martial brother.
Can't you?
Yunzhong finally said this sentence, which made Xian Crack look stagnant.
Old 14, old 15, go to. Deal with the Ming Zun.
At this time, Yi Tian suddenly appeared beside him. After saying this, he released Dun Tianxua again and called, Xian Run, come up.
Ah.
Xian Run agreed and boarded Dun Tianxua. After Yi Tian started the shuttle, his palm naturally pressed on the front rune. Dun Tianxua turned into a ray of light and shot away into the distance. Behind him, Xuanxie and Yunzhong also flashed up.
In the field shield of the lock sky array, Mingzuan sensed a scene that happened thousands of miles away and had completely entered a state of madness.
The powerful attacks were sent out at random, and the transparent shield was bombarded continuously. The 36 monks who arranged the array poured mana into the array flag continuously. Although the field shield kept shaking under the fierce attack, it was still solid and unbreakable.
Mean people. I'll kill you. Cunning Terran. I'll kill you. Abominable Terran. I will kill you.
No matter whether his crazy attack can break the field shield or not, Mingzuan always attacks continuously, bombarding the transparent field shield and swearing with blunt human language. In addition to the transparent field shield, there is no shadow around. All the friars who don't know how to lock the sky array field are all from the stealth state.
This kind of arrangement is also strictly required by Yi Tian.
Although there is no danger at this time, and there is no meditation, Yi Tian, who has always been cautious, worries that once the monks who set up the field expose their positions, they may be attacked by some unexpected and defenseless attacks. Or that sentence, be careful, you'll be a ship for 10,000 years.
Aha, I have a good temper. In the twinkling of an eye, he must be outside the field shield. Yi Tian jumps down from Dun Tianxua and laughs. Terran, I will kill you.
Finally, someone showed up, and the Ming Zun, trapped in the transparent shield, roared as he bombarded the shield. Yi Tian, with both hands down, smiles at two clusters of dark Buddha dancing with red flames in his eyes, but with a cold in his eyes.
Get ready to do it.
Immediately, he said in a deep voice. At the end of the order, Yi Tian floats back and stops his body only after he quits. At this time, Xuanxie has secretly grasped Tian Luonet in his hand, and he has released 16 ley insects. Yunzhong naturally takes out the 1,000-year-old peach tree ley sword, and is ready to bombard with thunder at any time. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared around Xianxia. It was Xiangang, the son of Xuanjia, who was rescued together with Xianxia in the Xuanjia space. As soon as the figure appeared, a black arrow appeared in his hand, and he pulled the bow like a full moon.
Xiangang is the highest monk in the spirit realm. Among the children of Xuanjia, his strength is second only to Xuanzhan, and even better than Yunzhong.
When the three were ready, even the Ming Zun in the field shield stopped bombarding the shield. Instead, he turned his head sideways, flashing two groups of ghost fire in his eye socket, and looked at the three, while his skeleton was retreating, as if afraid of something. At a certain moment, Yi Tian's gesture and the field shield disappeared with a buzzing sound. When Mingzuan had been waiting for this opportunity to get up and fly away, the Tian Luonet in Xuanxia's hand had turned into a white light shield, and it had already flown away from Mingzuan.
Although Mingzuan was powerful, he still couldn't escape under the white light.
The net of the white light trapped his skeleton in a flash. Then Xuanxia stretched out his hand and the skeleton flew to Xuanxia quickly. At this moment, a dark shadow floated out of the skeleton and shot away in the distance.
Boom! Kaka kaka.
How many voices came out at the same time? Yunzhong's Millennium Thunder Sword and 16 thunder insects came out at the same time and roared to the shadow. And that hum of a sound, but his lock sky array field instantly appear again. Blocked by the thunder, the shadow slowed down a little and was trapped in the field again.
Well done.
Seeing that all the plans have been realized according to his own ideas, and the shield has trapped the lost Ming Zun, Yi Tian finally shows a smile of the winner. Check his storage for bones. See a Xian Crack, Leaf Day says again. At this time, the mysterious crack has put away the Tian Luo net, turned into a white ball and returned to Yi Tian's hand. Then the rope tied with the skeleton also turned into a white light and flew into the white ball's hand. Only a tall white skeleton more than 30 feet high was left in front of the mysterious crack. Looking at a complete pair of bones, so many bones, Xian Craxi dazzled, for a moment, can't tell which piece is the storage fu bone that Yi Tian said.
This is the leg bone.
At this time, Yi Tian had already turned into a virtual shadow, flying to the front of Xuanxie's body from a distance, and then pointed to the skeleton. Xuanxie looks at the leg bone pointed by Yi Tian, and his half-immortal soldier flying sword appears in his hand, and he wants to cut off the leg bone from the whole bone.
Old 14, don't do that.
Your mind covers that leg bone, finds the mind wave, erases it, and then marks your own mind brand. It's okay to treat the whole skeleton bone as your own Shumi commandment. Yi Tian stretched out his hand to stop him, and some of them cried and laughed.
I understand.
Xian Crack should be according to the thought that Yi Tian said, the idea immediately covered the thick leg bone which was higher than his height. As expected, it was easy to find the fluctuation of the idea above.
Mingzuan is equivalent to the Jade Pu realm of the human friars.
The divine idea is naturally much stronger than Xuanxie, but it can't be erased. After Xuanxie felt the power of the divine idea brand, although his brow was slightly wrinkled, he still carried forward the spirit of dropping water through the stone and began to erase the divine idea brand bit by bit. Seeing such a situation, the tall shadow trapped in the field shield kept spinning madly inside the shield and swearing.
Damned Terran, I won't break you up after I get out of trouble.
You hateful guys, they even touched my bones. Despicable villain, dare not fight openly and aboveboard, make some intrigues.
No matter what the Mingzun said, no one paid any attention to him, especially Xuanxie.
He just patiently ground the mark of divine thoughts on his leg bones. Yi Tianzi looked at the crazy soul body with a smile, but the cold light flashed in his eyes. Yunzhong and Xiangang, each ready, closely watched the shadow in the shield, ready to strike with the 1,000-year-old Tamu Leishu sword in Hui Bao. Bit by bit, more than 2 hours later, the mysterious crack finally wiped out all the mental imprints on the attached bones, and then re-stamped the mental imprint. Seeing that Xuanxie finally got it, Yi Tian's face relaxed and said, look for it and see if there is the original arrow of Hui's bow in it.
Xuanxie nodded a little, and then his mind went into the store and attached bones.
But after 10 minutes, Xuanxie motioned, and 3 thick arrows with black light were suspended in front of him.
Yi Tian's face was more cheerful. He quickly looked at it. Through the black light, he saw that there were some extremely mysterious runes on the shaft of the arrow, which was thicker than his thumb. Even there were complex runes on the tip of the arrow. In the dark light, there was a trembling pressure, like an archaic python that could swallow everything at any time, which made people feel afraid. Compared with the bow and arrow used by Xiangang, they are not at the same level. One is like a bright moon, and the other is just like a firefly. Xiangang, take the arrow, recognize the Lord, and use it against Mingzuan. Yi Tian said to Xiangang after looking at Wansan Hui arrows.
Yes, Xiangang agreed. His figure flashed over and took 3 Hui arrows into his hands with a roll of magic power. When Hui started with the arrows, his hands sank.
What a weight!
Xiangang murmured, and his mind covered one of Hui's arrows. Master Yi, you don't have any mind mark. You will soon be able to recognize the Lord. With these words, Xiangang began to lay the brand of Shenyan, but in 3 or 5 minutes, all the 3 brands of Shenyan were finished.
He took out a Hui arrow again and put it on the string.
When the bow and the arrow just touched, both of them were flashing black light, as if they had become one.
It's heavy. Master Yi, this bow is swallowing mana. It can't be opened completely.
When Xiangang tried to pull Hui's bow, he felt that the bow became heavy and his mana was pouring in. Although he used all his mana, he could only pull it half open.
So much mana?
Yi Tian frowned and said, then open the shield immediately. Everyone is ready to kill this guy in one fell swoop. With that, Yi Tian raised his right hand and then fell down. He said at the same time, open the shield immediately. Just when he ordered the shield to be opened, the soul of Mingzun shot at the field shield like an electric light. According to the closing speed of the field shield before, when he rushed from his previous position to the edge of the field shield, it should be the moment when the field shield was opened. At this moment, he was just able to seize the opportunity, avoid all kinds of attacks and rush out of the crowd, escape back to the field shield at an extremely fast speed, and then return to the fog sea. As long as you enter the fog sea, you can replace it with a skeleton bone, even if it is a lower-level skeleton bone. He is also invincible. However, although his wishful thinking was very good, he did not expect that everything he imagined was completely inconsistent with the facts. When he bumped into the field shield and was ready to take advantage of the moment when the field shield opened, the field shield didn't close as he imagined. He hit the shield with all his strength and just hit the existing shield. No doubt, when he hit the field shield, his tall soul was violently rebounded back. But at the moment when his soul body was rebounded back and retreated in the air, it was unexpected that the shield was suddenly opened at this moment, and then all kinds of attacks came almost at the same time. The mysterious Tian Luonet is useless for the soul body, but he gestured and raised the black Shenyang stone in his hand. Yi Tian is a mouth and a big drink, Yao Dei subdue the devil. A round of sun appeared in the sky as if it was going to shine all over the world. The intense light enveloped all the surrounding area, and the soul was naturally enveloped in it. The 1,000-year peach tree thunder sword in Yunzhong's hand was urged by the magic power, and an extremely powerful thunder roared to the Mingzun soul body which bounced back from the shield. 16 lay insects also launched a powerful thunder attack at the first time. Now they have reached the top of the 5th level. If they are tempered by the mysterious white gas emitted from the peach tree lay sword for 1,000 years, they are very hopeful to enter the 6th level. The power of thunder is far from comparable to that of the previous period. But the black arrow of Hou-Yi, which Shengang pulled half open, suddenly shot. As soon as it left the string, it turned into a bright light and directed directly at Ningzuan's black soul. All this happened in a very short moment. The spirit body of Mingzun had just rebounded, and all kinds of attacks were launched almost at the same time, and they were well controlled. Boom! All kinds of attacks fell on the soul of Mingzun, and a huge sound was emitted. The destructive attack brought by the power of thunder, the power of Hou-Yi's arrow, and the power of the sun by Yi Tian made the soul of Mingzun explode, and countless pieces of soul scattered around in a flash. But, in a flash, those soul bodies seem to have the spirit in general, and converge in the same direction. Just because they are in the gravity field, the convergence of those soul bodies is very slow. Keep on attacking. Yi Tian eyebrows pick. He did not expect that the soul of Mingzun was so strong. In this case, there are signs of resurrection, recohesion of the soul. With his a big drink, the second wave of attack hit again. Boom! Xuandong's second Hou-Yi arrow hit a large fragment of soul body with dazzling light. The fragment exploded again, but this time, it didn't become a fragment. Instead, it was like frost meeting the scorching sun and disappeared into a wisp of smoke. The thundering force of the 1,000-year-old peach tree thunder sword, which Yunzhong urged, also struck a larger fragment of the soul body. Like the fragment of the soul body shot by Hou-Yi's arrow, it exploded and disappeared. The rest of them were broken by each of the 16 thunder insects. The terrible thunder that ran through the heaven and the earth fell from the sky one after another, and the souls of different sizes melted away. After the second round of attack, a few more thunderbolts fell, but there was no shadow of soul fragments. Who? At this time, all the people took a long breath. Shengang put back Hou-Yi's bow and put back the 2 arrows suspended in front of him. At the next moment, he immediately sat cross-knee in the air and began to breathe. At this time, he turned pale and sent out 2 Hou-Yi arrows one after another. His mana was almost exhausted, and now he was almost at the end of his life. Then, Yi Tian saw this situation and said hello. A pill of pills flew away from his hand and flew to Shengang. Shengang took it without hesitation and sent it to the entrance to continue breathing. After counting his breath, he got up. Although his mana was not fully recovered, his momentum was much stronger, and he no longer needed to practice kung fu to regulate his breath. Xuanxie and Yunzhong put away the Shenyang stone and the 1,000-year-old Leishu sword respectively, flew to the place where Mingzuan's soul body dissipated, felt it carefully, looked at each other and nodded. Master. Then they came to Yi Tian and called softly. Well done, well done. Yi Tian nodded and praised. Next, go to wipe out the meditation in the sea.
With these words, Yi Tian releases Dun Tiansuo. This time, Xianrun is the first one to jump up and say to Yi Tian, Master Yi, I'll take the helm for you. Well, among these people, you are more familiar with this magic weapon. Leaf Day saw Xianrun one eye, nod away. This shuttle belongs to Yi Tian. Others can't start it. Only after Yi Tian starts it himself can others control the direction and speed up with mana. When Yi Tian arrived at Dun Tiansuo, a magic power was played, and Dun Tiansuo left. Xuanxie, Yunzhong and Xiangang follow each other with their own evasion skills. They are the Xians who set up the field of the Skylock array. The Friar of the Cloud family also showed his figure and followed. Master Yi, I have something to ask for. Please save my life. In flight, Xianrun whispers to Yi Tian. Both of them are smart people. Yi Tian naturally knows what Xianrun is referring to. He calmly replies, well, please give me a reason to save you. I don't want to talk about the character of the younger generation. It's already tainted, but the younger generation can learn from the past and look back. Just now, I saw that the owner of the family had been glaring at me. The younger generation guessed that as long as the matter of not returning to the sea was over, the owner would certainly enforce the clan rules on the younger generation. If the elder can save the younger generation will repay the elder even if they are cattle and horses. The elder has great powers, but after all, things are busy. There should be many places for the younger generation to work. Therefore, the younger generation voluntarily asks the elder to plant a band to show loyalty. What happened before will never happen again. Xianrun said anxiously. You mean to go with me? Yi Tian still asked without any emotional fluctuation. Xianrun turned back and nodded to Yi Tian, yes, I want to. I can't stay in Luo Tianlingyu anymore. Otherwise, people in the Xian family often see me and think of the things that the side branch of the Xian family once did. Even if the master is willing to forgive me, others will have a lot of criticism. In the end, the master may punish me again. After thinking about it, I have to follow my predecessors and work hard. But I want to go to the Earth Star. On the way to the Earth Star, there are some space passageways, which can't be passed by the monks of the Divine Realm. How can you follow me? Yi Tian looks at Xianrun to ask away. Xianrun said, I've thought about that. I'll practice the spirit subduing skill practiced by the ancestors of Xiandazon, and then I can suppress my accomplishments. In this way, I can always follow my elders and work for them. Yi Tian said with a sneer, your speculative nature is still unrepentant. You always want to go after the good and avoid the bad. Is it not the second betrayal to the Xian family? Hear Yi Tian say so, Xianrun body a shock, if not Xian crack is not far behind, he almost want to kneel down for Yi Tian. Yi Tian's this sentence is hitting his key point, a big hat button down. Master Yi, you don't know. The ants are still greedy. Xianrun just wants to survive. In fact, he can't betray the Xians for the second time. Because Xianrun is dispensable to the Su family, and it will not do any harm to the interests of the Xian family. If the elder is willing to accept Xianrun, in addition to the conditions mentioned before, the younger generation is willing to be a slave all his life. I only hope that the younger generation can give me a chance to repent. The elder is tolerant of the disciples of Xiandazon. Why don't you forgive the younger generation? Xianrun's words were earnestly voiced and begged. Slave? Yi Tian murmured and repeated a sentence, pondering for a moment, this matter, let me consider it. It's only 1,000 miles from the place where Dun Tiansuo started to the edge of the fog sea. At the speed of Dun Tiansuo, it's only a few words before he's there. Xianrun wants to say something more. Dun Tiansuo is close to the edge of the dark fog. At this time, Xuanxie and Yunzhong have speeded up and come near. Xianrun has to swallow the following words. Dun Tiansuo stops, and the disciples of Xuanxie and Yunjia, who are invisible nearby, come out and approach Yi Tian. Then, 8 water jets suddenly burst out in the sea below, and the 8 sixth-order sea monsters who had been flying in the sea all the time also flew into the air. Kill Mingzun, such a big victory, whether it's the children of the Xian family and the Cloud family, as well as the 8 sixth-order sea demons, all of them have a look of excitement on their faces. Everyone's eyes to Yi Tian are extremely complex, which can't be described by words. They are so hot and full of worship. Yi Tian's eyes slowly swept over the crowd and said, "The most difficult battle before is over." Now there are 3,000 or 4,000 Ming practitioners in the dark fog, but the realm is needless to mention. There are only more than 300 Ming emperors who are equivalent to the Yuan infant friars of the human race. The strength they can play in the dark fog can be compared with the level 5 monsters. The rest of the meditation was not worth mentioning, and then there was a battle without suspense. Take care of it yourself, master, don't worry. If you can't do this thing well, Xianchan is not worthy to be master's disciple anymore. Xian cracked smell speech to smile. Well, let's do it. Don't worry about me. Remember to block the space passage for the first time, and try not to let the meditation enter the too wild spiritual realm through the space passage. Yi Tian waved his hand, and then went down to Dun Tiansuo. Xianran followed him and took a look at Yi Tian. He took the lead to rush into the dark fog. Xuanxie naturally knows Yi Tian's ability. At this time, he has nothing to worry about, so he and Yunzhong take the friars and 8 sea demons to escape to the underworld. When everyone disappeared in the fog, Yi Tian made a gesture, and the fierce sword had been suspended in his chest. Fei Jian felt the strong resentment in the surrounding dark air. The black, red, and white light of the sword body flickered and made a buzzing vibration. Under the control of the soul of Xianlong's sword, the sword light flashed into the dark fog. Soon after, the dark cyclone formed in the dark fog became bigger and bigger until it ran through the heaven and earth. Seeing that Xianlong is absorbing the dark fog crazily, Yi Tian releases Dun Tiansuo, enters it, opens the shield, and quietly looks at the picture in his mind. From time to time slightly nods, also occasionally frowns. Time goes by little. In the end, Yi Tian doesn't even look at the picture in his mind. He just pays attention to the fierce flying sword under the huge dark air whirlpool. At this time, he was looking forward to the extent to which the ghost of Xianlong's sword could be fully integrated with that ghost. This time, the time that Xianlong devoured the dark fog was much longer than the last time. Even Yi Tian, who was waiting in Dun Tiansuo, became a little sleepy and changed to devour the pill and entered the cultivation state. I don't know how long it took, but Yi Tian, who was watching the outside world, suddenly opened his eyes from the practice. What he saw in the sight was that in the dark fog, the huge and incomparable dark fog whirlpool, which seemed to carry out the heaven and earth, began to decrease gradually, and the speed of rotation also decreased. The momentum was far less amazing than before. Is it over? Yi Tian closes Dun Tiansuo's shield and floats out of it. After putting away Dun Tiansuo, he floats to the fierce soldier's flying sword and waits quietly. The fog whirlpool became smaller and smaller until it disappeared, and the rolling fog gradually subsided. Sword spirit, how do you feel? Yi Tian's face is a joy, ask away in a hurry. Great. Xianlong's female voice seems to be a little sweeter. After that, the fierce soldier's flying sword suddenly blooms a bright light, and then flashes, and disappears from the original place. Yi Tian picks up his eyebrows and looks for the sword by virtue of the divine connection with the fierce soldier's flying sword. Suddenly, he sees the fierce soldier's flying sword flash from the fog and show his figure again. On the body of the sword, there are a bunch of snow-white skeletons. These 4 Hades were killed by me. Yi Tian hasn't had time to check it carefully, so he hears the soul of Xianlong's sword say. Yi Tian was overjoyed when he heard that Xianlong's sword spirit could kill 4 Hades by manipulating fierce soldiers' flying swords. Hades was just a golden elixir equivalent to human friars. For Xianlong, who was originally an 8-level monster, this was nothing. Yi Tian was surprised at the speed of Xianlong's sword soul's manipulation of fierce soldiers' flying swords in killing the 4 Hades. Now the battle in the dark fog is coming to an end, and it is impossible to find groups of meditation. Those remaining meditation are hidden by their own abilities, trying to escape the pursuit of the Terran monks. The situation of the fierce soldier's flying sword at this time just shows that it wants to fly to the depth of the dark fog, find 4 Ming Shou one by one, then kill them, take each other's skeletons, and finally fly back. However, it took only a few breaths to accomplish all this. It's impossible. Under the ecstasy, Yi Tian makes a move to the fierce soldier's flying sword. The light of the fierce soldier's flying sword flashes and comes to Yi Tian's body. Yi Tianpiao steps on the sword body. As soon as his mana urges him, the fierce soldier's flying sword draws a virtual shadow and shoots it to the distance. His speed is several times faster than before. This speed, with Yi Tian's knowledge, can be easily compared. It has surpassed the speed of Dun Tiansuo, and reached the speed of the friars in the early stage of the real transformation of the divine realm. However, Dun Tiansuo has only half the speed of the transformation of the divine realm. Compared with the real monks, there is a big difference, though it is only half a step away. If Yi Tian uses Dun Tiansuo, he will never be faster than a real monk, even a monk in the early stage of the transformation of the divine realm, unless the Xian run of the transformation of the divine realm is accelerated with mana. For the fierce soldier flying sword, this speed is equivalent to a completely new change. Yi Tian knows that he has one more card up to now. Even in the face of the pursuit of the monks in the spirit transforming realm, he can escape from the sky without using the hidden killing technique. Of course, he can only be a monk in the early spirit transforming realm. If the concealed killing technique is combined with the speed of the fierce soldier's flying sword, there will be more ways to use it. Yi Tian is experiencing the unprecedented extreme speed of the fierce soldier's flying sword, but he suddenly stops. After passing the test just now, he is absolutely speechless in speed. However, he is shocked to find that the mana used to run the fierce soldier's flying sword at full speed is much more than before. Sensing the consumption of mana in the elixir field, Yi Tian estimates that with his current mana, he can't use the fierce sword to fly at full speed. According to his conservative estimation, in this case, he can hold on for about half an hour at most. Originally, I thought that after the transformation of Fei Jian, Dun Tiansuo should be able to be laid off. But now it seems that it is necessary for him to continue to serve. After all, Dun Tiansuo doesn't need to spend mana. He only needs to use the best Xianyu. Although the speed is slow, it is one of his cards. Although the United States and China are not in the middle, Yi Tian is already very satisfied. This can be regarded as a surprise for him on this trip not to return to the island. Maybe it's the upgrade of the level of the fierce soldier's flying sword that costs so much mana. After all, the Bao of Hui, even Xin Gang, who is at the top of the divine realm, can only launch 2 arrows with half-open bow and arrow, and his mana will be exhausted. Yi Tianxin thinks so, and finally let go of his last regret. Maybe after his mana is improved, he can use the fierce sword to play faster. The Underworld. Fragments of Ziyun Sword. On the way back, Yi Tian recites these 2 names. I don't know. There are still several pieces of Ziyun Sword. Where are they? If you encounter the location of the underworld, you must make a good exploration. After returning to the dark fog, about 2 hours later, Yi Tian finally waited for Xuanxie and Yunzhong. With the children of the Xians and Yuns, the monsters, even the 8 sixth order monsters, disappeared. How's it going? Are there any casualties? Yi Tian glanced at everyone and asked with a smile. Shifu is joking. No matter how incompetent we are, there will be no casualties. Master's ultimate goal has finally been achieved. This is a legend that will surely shock the whole spiritual realm of Luo Tian. The 8 sixth order sea monsters have left, and each of them has returned to the clan to contact us. Master has completely conquered them in this battle. Xian Crack says with a smile. But then his words changed and he sighed, just a little regret. Didn't you find those Xian Ming people? Yi Tianmei slightly raised, lips with a little narrow smile asked. Xuanxie looked at Yunzhong and laughed awkwardly, nothing can hide the master's eyes. It's not that the disciples are incompetent, but that they should have left the sea before we came. They fought for a long time in the sea, and they didn't even see one of them. Maybe they have already gone to the time and spirit realm through the space channel, or they have already left the sea and fled to other places, but it doesn't matter. If they are still in the Luotian spirit realm, we will slowly look for the remaining evils of the Xianming sect in the future, and we will not let them go unpunished. Hearing the words, Yi Tian did wave his hand. Well, don't wait. They didn't leave the spirit realm of Luo Tian. Instead, they ran away and forgot to come with me. I'll take you to kill the remaining evils of Xianming sect. If we don't get rid of it as soon as possible, we don't know how many more lives will be destroyed. Master knows where they are? Xiancrack asks in surprise. Nonsense.
Yi Tian said release Dun Tian Suwa. Xiancrack still jumped up for the first time. Seeing this, Yi Tian shakes his head and smiles, but he doesn't say anything.
A mana hits Dun Tiansuo.
When Dun Tiansuo flies, Yi Tian points in a certain direction. Xianran also follows a mana to hit a certain rune, and Dun Tiansuo shoots away through the dark fog. Behind Dun Tiansuo, a group of people started to follow him closely.
Master Yi, how are you thinking about what you said before?
Xianran was so easy to seize this opportunity that he asked quietly while manipulating Dun Tiansuo. How many achievements have you made in this sweep of the underworld? Yi Tian didn't answer his question. Instead, he asked. This time, the younger generation is working very hard. If it wasn't for the elder generation who said that there couldn't be a single casualty, the younger generation would like to be hurt. Even so, I personally killed more than 500 of them, and their skeletons were collected by the younger generation. At that time, once the family leader dealt with the younger generation would take these skeletons to ask the family leader to make amends. The family leader would certainly not agree. At that time, it would depend on the former generation's good words. What I said before is from the bottom of my heart. I'm sure I'll be loyal to you. You can't trust me. Can't you believe the prohibition you planted? Xianrun continues to sound and pleads. Yi Tiandao, you have a lot of tricks. If you use Zhengqiu, you can also become a useful person. But if you use your mind to count others, in the end, you will find that you are the only one who will be counted. I hope you will not let me down, otherwise you will find that there are more terrible things in the world than death. Thank you very much, Master. No, thank you very much. This is the last time the old slave is servile. He will be loyal to his master in the future. In fact, the younger generation also wanted to understand that following the master might be the most correct choice in the old slave's life, and it was also an extremely rare opportunity. Xianrun heard that Yi Tian finally agreed to come down, and even his voice was a little excited. Yi Tian said no more and began to close his eyes. After a period of time, Dun Tiansuo finally flew out of the fog and came to the blue sky and sea. His vision became bright. At this time, Xiancha followed him and asked, Master, why don't those meditation practitioners enter Timon's spiritual realm through the space channel, but stay in Luotian's spiritual realm? Yi Tian pondered, because they need the dark fog here, maybe it has something to do with their cultivation. And there must be some reasons why they don't want to go back in the realm of Timon spirit. I guess that the underworld will send them out to carry out missions, which are far more dangerous than here. As for whether this is the case, they have to ask themselves. After hearing this, Xuanxie thought about it carefully and said, Don't say it. It's really such a thing. What the master said is very reasonable. By the way, master, if I say more, I think I'm flattering my master, but some of my words are not easy to say, and I still have some doubts. Please answer me, say. Leaf Day picked to pick eyelid, vomited a word. Xiancrack smile, ask away, master is how to anticipate that Dark Zune will chase out of, and specially arrange the next field. After hearing the question, all the people followed up and listened. Yi Tian looked at them and laughed, what's unexpected? You can't be a prophet. If that Dark Lord doesn't come out, we'll kill his men until he comes out. It's that simple. Ah, I see. But Shifu, I have a big question. Why can Shifu kill those flesh and bones in a very short time? I can't understand it. To know this kind of lethality, even the great friar of Yupu realm can't do it. Xiancrack side head asks away, say this words, his face is still an expression of thinking. All the people here are our own, so it's okay to tell you. Once upon a time, Suiyuan left some terrible immortal power in his master. Once used, it would have amazing power. It's the same to kill the two great friars in Yupu realm, and it's the same to kill the flesh and bones. But the power left by Suiyuan is limited after all. I won't use it when I'm not in a critical moment, because I'll use it less once. I'll use it all the time, and I'll run out of it one day. Although all the people present can be trusted, Yi Tian has always been used to being cautious.
He can't say anything about the grimace mask.
Otherwise, after anyone is searched, he may reveal his secret.
So Yi Tian has an idea.
But why didn't the master kill the underworld directly, and ask his disciples to kill him with so much effort?
Xuanxie really has a spirit of inquiring into the bottom.
After reviewing what Yi Tian said, he suddenly found something he couldn't understand.
He didn't think much about it.
He didn't realize that the master, who always said he didn't brag, was just talking freely, so he asked.
Yi Tian's heart surges up a burst of helplessness. Is your mouth quick? Do you have to ask? Or not my own apprentice? Is it necessary for master not to justify himself?
He stared at the crack for a few seconds, then pointed at him with his finger, showing a helpless expression. You can't use your brain? In this battle to wipe out the practice of not returning to the sea, master is only the green leaf, and you are the red flower. It's you, the Xians and the Yuns, who really want to be famous in Luotian Lingyu. Think about it, master is going to leave Luotian Lingyu after all.
Is it useful to leave prestige in Luotian Lingyu? Is it useful to leave behind any legends? It's you who really want to leave a legend.
As the saying goes, it's better to eat a peach than a basket of rotten apricots. Those flesh and bones are rotten apricots, and the highest realm of Mingzun is the peach. You are equivalent to killing a great friar of Yupu realm. Who can kill the great friar of Yupu realm? It turns out that Shifu's heart is so hard. In order to help us, he wasted the precious power left by Sui Huang.
How can we repay him?
Listen to Yi Tian finish. Xian Crackheart, a burst of moved, unconsciously bowed to Yi Tian deeply.
Well, don't be polite. It's all from your own family. Don't say anything about the power of Sui Huang in you. If you didn't ask me again and again, I wouldn't say anything about you. Yi Tian waved his hand and told him.
I must obey my master's orders, but I still have a question.
Please help me out. Xian Split nodded, then said. Ask. Yi Tian is helpless again.